We just started the second day of Kelowna Comic Con. Anyway, stay tuned for more updates. Bye bye.
Mike, I'll be the moderator. Travis, thank you so much for coming to Kelowna.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, well, we originally had you and AJ Buckley coming up with Ghost Facers.
Yeah.
Yes, you guys remember the Ghost Face? That's big thing.
Ghost
Facers.
Facers.
Stay in the kitchen when the kitchen gets hot. I don't know if you saw, but there's some awesome Ghost Facer T-shirts on his table. Amazing, and you gave one of or my wife bought one.
Yep.
And what did you do to AJ?
I put a little demon. I put some demon horns.
Yep.
And a little demon goatee.
Yes.
So
He drew up on AJ's face and put my new partner and BFF and all this stuff. So it was awesome. So, well, if you guys have any questions, feel free to just throw up your hand and I'll get to you. Right off the bat, go for it.
What was it like working with Jared and Jensen?
it was great. You know, those guys are fantastic. You know, they're very welcoming. You know, they're good guys. Like, they're genuinely good people. So and that comes through right away. You know, when you get to the set, and you know, it's just got a whole there's a whole family vibe, and it was like that from season 1. You know, and I think the last season I did was 10, and so nothing had really changed. And you know, they go to war for their people. You know, they take care of everybody, and you know, they're kind of they're not just team players. They're kind of you know, they're coaches too, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you know, they love to have a good time, but they're also there they're there to work, and they're incredibly hardworking. You know, it'd be real easy for them to just sort of show up and, you know, whatever, but no, they're there, and when they're there, they're there, and you know, they got their lines dialed in, they got their marks hit, and yeah, they're just
awesome.
spectacular guys, and you know, they love to you know, they like to have a laugh too, you know, they pull pranks and stuff like that, but you know, but yeah, they're great guys.
So when you did that first episode where the Ghost Facers first appeared, did you think that it would be those characters in a one episode would be as big as they would, as popular as they were?
Well, no, because we did the one episode season 1, and we were the Hellhounds, and so you know, we just kind of figured that was a one-off. You know, it was fun, and it was also season 1. You know, it's a show like that, season 1. I mean, this is back before the CW was the CW. It was called the WB back then, and actually, it was while we were shooting that episode is when the entire set found out that the CW, that Warner Bros., like the WB network, was closing, and it was going to be called, and it was merging with what was called the UPN back then in the States, and it was going to be the CW network, and so. So while we were working on that episode, we got that news, and people, you know, it was a very uneasy time on set. People were kind of looking at each other like, "What are we gonna do? What's gonna happen to the show?" Because you know, they didn't know if they were even gonna do the season 2. I think at that point. So.
And now they're going at 15.
Yeah, now they're going to, like, you know, season 48. So.
Yeah.
You know, it's fantastic, and yeah. So no, I mean, when we shot that first episode, I mean, we obviously, it was just a one-off. It was fun to come up to Canada, and you know, we're going to see what would happen. But then they got picked up for another season, and then we got invited back to do the Ghost Facer episode.
Yeah.
And you know, I thought it was just going to be the, you know, just sort of the. We were going to be the Hellhounds again or something. We were just going to kind of be the goofs, and we'd show up for a couple episodes, for a couple scenes, you know. And I figured, you know, it's going to be great. I'm going to go up to Vancouver. You know, I was really into climbing at that time. I'm going to, I'll go, do some climbing and stuff because I'm going to have plenty of days off. Because, you know, I figured I'd work maybe 3 days because they're going to have me maybe 2 or 3 scenes. You know, we'd show up, we'd, you know, act like idiots and get out. And you know, they don't show you the script before, like if you're a recurring character especially, you don't get to see the script before you say yes. You know, they say like, "Hey, can you come back for another episode?" And you're like, yeah, sure. And they sent me the script, and I actually didn't read it. I didn't bother. I was just like, I'm sure it's fine, you know. And I get on the plane, and so just a little bit of context. This was actually right after there was a major writers' strike in the States.
Right.
So all the writers of television shows and stuff like that, they went on strike. And so production stopped for months. And so there was just nothing happening. And what did happen at that time during those months was reality TV shows really became popular because you didn't need writers for the reality. Even though there were writers, I mean, you had people writing these plot lines and stuff like that for these reality TV shows. But it was so the reality TV thing really kind of took off then. And one of the things that really took off at that time was the ghost hunter shows. There was like 2 or 3 ghost hunter shows that came out within like a span of a couple weeks of each other. So the Ben Edlund, you think it's Ben Edlund? Yeah, he wrote the episode, and he had the brilliant idea to kind of spoof that whole kind of genre, and also kind of to give a little bit of a thumb in the eye to the whole the fact that all these reality shows had sort of come up in that time. And so I hadn't read the screenplay, and I get on the plane, and I see a buddy of mine. Her name was Brittany Ishibashi. I think she still goes by Brittany Ishibashi professionally. And we had worked together before on a couple things, I think. And then I saw her on the plane. I'm like, "Hey, Brittany, what are you doing here?" She goes, "I'm going up to Vancouver." I'm like, "Hey, me too." And she's like, "All right, what are you working on?" I'm like, "A little show called Supernatural." She's like, "I'm working on Supernatural." I'm like, "What? Get out of here! You're gonna be on the." We can. I guess we'll have some scenes together. And she's like, "Oh, you haven't read the screenplay?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't read the script." And she's like, "Okay, well, you're good." I was like, I'm gonna read it right now. She's like, "Okay, good." So I sit down, and the first page is us, and it's this show, and it's like we're the ghost facers, and I was like, oh my god. And I kind of just really quickly started flipping through the entire thing, and it's like there's Harry page, and I was like, oh my god, I'm in this entire episode. I'm like, and I get to the part, and I start reading it, and I get to the part where Brittany's there, and it's Ed's sister, and I'm like, oh my god, and then we have this smooching scene, and I'm like, Brittany, and she and I still remember when they fly you up to Vancouver, they fly you up first class, and I remember I'm like, Brittany, and she kind of turns around, and she goes, yeah, and I was like, oh my god, and so I was blown away, I was stoked, I couldn't believe it, and we got up there, and Phil Segrecia, who I think later became the showrunner. He was directing it, and he was fantastic. And we shot it pretty much. A lot of it was improv. First thing we did when we got up there is Austin Basis and Brittany and myself. AJ hadn't shown up yet, but we all got together, and we had these suites. So there was a kitchen in each of our rooms. So we all got together, and we cooked for each other. So we all showed up, and we all had a dish, and we all cooked, and we ate, and we just went over our characters, and we did this thing where we gave each other Q&As, because we knew there was going to be kind of those confessional moments that like The Office made famous. So we knew we were going to do some professional stuff. So we just started riffing, and we just started taking turns asking each other questions in character. And I think one of the reasons, and I kind of credit that session for that episode kind of coming together the way that it did, because by the time we got on set, we knew exactly who these characters were. We had our timing down. We knew, we just were really comfortable and familiar with not only our characters, but everyone else's characters as well. So it's kind of like, if you're playing a sport or something, you want to be able to, you're going to run a play. You need to know where all the other players are going to be on the field. So we knew pretty much where everyone else was going to be, and I thought it came together really well. The whole rats of the world bit that came out of that session. I mean, there was it was just a ton of stuff. Spruce, Austin Basis, the whole thing about something about having a Jewish grandfather or something. Pretty much all this stuff came out of that one session, and just got explored on camera. So we didn't necessarily, so we showed up having an idea of where we were going to go and where everyone was going to be. I think that really helped. So yeah, it was a great experience. I've never had an experience like that on set before, and it was really, really great.
So after that episode came out, were you shocked at how much people were talking about it, or how much Harry was this all of a sudden iconic figure in Supernatural, or were you like, yeah, we knew it?
Well, we
knew it.
kind of knew we had something really cool. We
Yeah.
knew it was going to be one of those, episodes that, hopefully people would remember and take with them because, we had a feeling it was going to really stand out. There's a lot of really fun, kind of quirky episodes in Supernatural, but I think to me, I watched a bunch of the show. I mean, to be honest with you, we were the first web series that Warner Brothers ever purchased. I don't know if everyone knows that, but the web series, I think it's available on the season 5 DVD, perhaps. But we shot 10 episodes of a web series, Ghostfacers, and it was mainly because the response was so strong, and I think the characters were just really solid. And it's kind of too bad that happened when it did, because I think at that time, would have been about 2009, and so web series were still kind of in their infancy. So I don't think Warner Brothers really knew what to do.
Yeah,
with,
really new.
Yeah. I don't think Warner Brothers really knew what to do with that. But yeah, I mean, they took us down to San Diego Comic-Con to just basically prank Eric Kripke and Jared Jensen. They were doing their panel at San Diego Comic-Con, and unbeknownst to them, they had us come down, and we just crashed the panel. And we get up there and we start heckling them, and Brittany's there with her camera, and Spruce is there. It was
That
really
is
cool.
awesome.
Yeah. It's the footage is still out there on YouTube
I gotta
somewhere. I'm
find
pretty
that.
sure.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it was really fun.
I gotta check it
Really
out.
cool.
So you said, I think it was season 10, the Ghostfacers came back.
Yeah.
They came on the show. And now, when you got that script, were you like, yeah, I knew they were doing this, or was it like a total shock, like, yeah, we're doing it again? And like, how did you and AJ feel about that? You and AJ are still buddies, right?
Yeah, and that was a tough shoot because AJ had just had his first kid, so he actually kissed his baby and then got on a plane.
Yeah.
So that was tough, it was kind of down. I mean, we had some creative differences with the director, I gotta admit. We sensed that the characters were kind of going in a different direction than the characters that we kind of felt we established. But I thought it still had a lot of emotional resonance, and I think it's. I'm not sure where we're at in terms of coming back. I know that AJ's got his show, the SEAL Team show. So, I don't know if we're going to be coming back, which is kind of a shame because it'd be kind of fun to see, to kind of close out that particular character arc.
I think for the final season, I think they have to bring you back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think they have to bring you back. I think it'd be silly if they didn't.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna call them.
You should put in the phone call.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
There you go.
Do that right now. How did you get into acting?
Well, I was born and raised in LA, and
That's it?
that's it. There it is.
That's
That's
how
all
you
there is
do
to
it.
it. No, so I was born and raised in LA, so that helped. And then, when I was a kid, I think I was probably 10 years old, but all the time I was growing up, I would, they'd ask me at the dinner table, they'd ask me at the dinner table, it's like, what'd you do today, et cetera, and I would just be like, it was a tough day today, guys. Some ninjas came in and tried to take over the school. Yeah, and my parents would be like, ninjas trying to? Like, yeah, and I had to beat them all up. Now, don't ask the teacher about it because it's still top secret. The FBI came in and locked the whole place down and swore us all to secrecy. But I'm telling you, so shush. And they'd be like, Travis, I don't really think that's actually what happened. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, that's exactly what happened. So my mom was like, well, he's a really good storyteller, we'll say. He's a really good storyteller. So she just, enrolled me in a local acting class for kids over a summer, and just kind of being like, he's got to take this. He's got to go do something with it that's not, just lying right to my face all the time. So I went into acting class, and from there, I wound up getting a tiny little role in the Culver City civic children's light opera production of Annie.
Seen it.
And good. Yeah, you were in the audience, huh? And so I got this little tiny role. I played Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and I had one scene, and I was only in one performance because I was stepping in for someone else. I got it on like 2 weeks' notice. But that one scene was enough that a woman, I still remember her name was Lachelle Chamberlain, which is a cool name. And she, came up to me after the opening night performance, and really excited, big blue eyes, I still remember, big blue eyes, blonde hair. And she said, I think you're great. I think you're really amazing. Here's my card. I really think you could do something in this town. I was like, okay. All right. And it turns out she was a manager, so I went in, I met with her and with my mom, and she said, yeah, let me go, let's do this. Let me take you into a meeting with an agent. I said, great. So we went in, met with the agent. I did kind of like I remember I did like a read of a commercial, like a fake commercial. And so they signed me. And then the first commercial I went on was for Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And I don't know if, I don't know, yeah, it's my favorite too. I don't know if anyone has any memories of this, but there used to be these commercials where there was the kid and then the animated bakers. There were like these bakers that were like drawn in. It was like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit kind of style. Anyway, I was one of those kids, and I got to do a commercial for Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And by the way, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is my favorite cereal. When you shoot a commercial for food and you have to actually eat the food, they have a spit bucket, right? So like after you take a bite of the food, you go, like that. Then you're supposed to spit it out. And so I would do the take where I would I took a big mouthful of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, like that, and they would be like, here you go. And I'm going, and I would finish my mouth every single time. They were like, we don't want you to get sick of it. I'm not getting sick of it. I love this shit. So anywho, so I did that commercial. I did a screen test for a movie. I did a couple other things, and I just kind of decided it wasn't for me. I decided acting was a little too hectic, a little too stressful. I just wanted to be a kid. So, I kind of ended the relationship with the agent, the manager, and everything. I just went back to school. And that was about 15. I was working at a taco stand. And they really emphasized customer service. They really wanted you to be up and peppy and friendly with the customers and joke around with them and have a good time. And so I did. And this guy came in and he saw me working at Paquito Mas, which is what the taco stand was called. And he said, hey, you should try acting. And I said, I tried acting. Didn't really work out for me. I'm in this punk rock band. We're called Toast. We're going to be huge. I think I'm going to stick with that. And he said, yeah, okay, well, you know what? Here, take my card, and so on and so forth. So I said, okay. And I don't remember what happened. I think my dad wanted me to go to college or something. He was like, let's talk about college. And I was like, college? Dad, get out of here. I'm in a punk rock band. That's nothing punk rock about college at all. Yeah. And he was like, no, seriously, we need to talk about college. And so, I don't know, I wound up giving the guy a call, and he was like, oh, hey, thanks for calling me back. Why don't we just go in and meet with an agent? Same thing, went with the agent. Agent signed me. I went on a commercial, first commercial audition, I booked it. And then my dad was like, and so I had to, get my dad's permission to go work on this commercial. He was not happy about it at all. But that's how I got into it the second time. This time it kind of stuck. And so this time I kind of stayed in it. I kept working, I kept getting work, and that was it. That was how I got in.
What was your first movie or TV role?
So I did a couple commercials for Twix and for...
You like Twix too?
I do
No
like
spit
Twix.
bucket?
Actually, no spit bucket there. That was delicious. I did do a commercial though for a product called Pop-Tarts Crunch, which was a cereal based on Pop-Tarts. It basically was like, they had the consistency of Captain Crunch, but they were like Pop-Tarts flavored. I used a spit bucket for that. Wasn't my favorite cereal. So I did a couple commercials, and then my first TV show was called Turbocharged Thunderbirds. So there used to be a show called Thunderbirds, which is like these marionettes, which is kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen Team America, but that whole style was based on Thunderbirds. And so what this company did is they took Thunderbirds, they purchased it from the original producers, and then they decided they were going to use that footage, but then they were going to have these kids in Thunderbird 5, which is like this, circling the Earth, which was kind of helping them out. So it was like live action mixed with marionettes and stuff. We only did one season, but that was my first. That was like my first TV show, and I learned a lot of important lessons on that TV show.
And were you a marionette or live action?
Well, I wanted to be a marionette. I thought that's what the gig was, and they said no. We're
so where do you tie the strings?
Yeah.
Director.
Yeah.
Line.
No, actually, it was on that set that I learned some really important lessons about acting and about just being, if you're up there, if you're up high on the call sheet. Like I kind of had like I was maybe 16. And I thought that what you did if you were an actor and you were like the head person on the show is you acted like a diva, You got in there, you just had problems with things, and there's this the first AD, so the first assistant director. His nickname was Boomer. I don't know if I ever learned his real name, but he was this dude. He was jacked, he had these big. I still remember these big biceps, big arms. And one day about 3 days into the shoot, he took me aside. He just sat me down. He said, "Travis, I like you. I think you're a good kid. You need to drop this attitude, or we're gonna drop you." And I said, "Okay, good talk. All right." And from then on, I was happy-go-lucky. I was a ray of sunshine. I'd show up on set, boy. I'd be like, "All right, we ready to go? We're gonna work. We're working. All right, look good, feel good. Ought to be in Hollywood. Let's go. All right, let's roll." And from then on, I'd like to think I completely dropped the whole, just complain, the diva thing doesn't work. No one wants that, when you're trying to work in Hollywood. And so I learned that lesson early, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And I think, the longevity that I did enjoy in the business, I think a lot of it has to do with that conversation I had with Boomer.
I think we get a lot of guests here at Comic-Con, obviously, and we've been very lucky. We haven't got that diva effect through, and I mean, it happens, but we've been lucky we haven't had it. So
that's good.
It's good. So I love Supernatural, but I also really love Eurotrip. That movie. I think my favorite. I mean, you're probably my favorite part of that movie. There's so many great things. I mean, other than the robot fight.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty.
Fred Armisen in the train.
Yeah.
Now, tell me about that. Did you read that script before you got it? That part of the script, or was it like? By the way, bringing in Fred Armisen, his creepy little mustache.
Yes, I did. I did read the screenplay before I got that one. And originally, that scene was, I think, going to be Scotty's scene, actually. But for whatever reason, I think maybe the chemistry wasn't there. Maybe they decided that it was better. It didn't work because he was kind of like the main character or something. Yeah. But they wound up pitching it to me, and I was stoked. And I gotta say, Fred Armisen is the only guy who has ever made me actually laugh while the cameras were rolling. Like I just fell out. And he didn't even say anything. The way he made me laugh was just when if you watch the film, he sits down and he slowly he sits down and he kind of slowly turns and looks at me, And I just kept laughing. And the problem was that when I did it, I think once or twice, but the problem is that we were on an actual real train. Oh. And so there was no green screen, they actually rented a train. Yeah. And it was on train tracks. And so if I messed up the scene, they had to stop the train, go back, move the entire train back to where it's like, and then go again. So so he made me laugh, and it maybe cost production, I think, a couple $1,000, but he was fantastic.
Now, how much of that scene, because I can see Fred Armisen being like this, how much of that scene was just him just improvising, like, hey Fred, creep on Travis?
Yeah, I think it was all scripted, but I mean, just when we got into the timing of just the Miskuzis and all that stuff, it was pretty much all him, and I just reacted to him.
It was great.
All I had to do was
the
react.
hand on the leg.
Oh, Miskuzzi.
Yeah. All I had to do was react.
Yeah, I really love that.
He's a really gifted comedian.
Yeah. Now that movie, were you guys actually in all those filming locations? Like, I don't know if you were actually in Bratislava, but like, where was most of the filming done? Were you actually in England? Were you actually in?
No, we were in Prague. We were in Prague the whole time.
The whole time.
The whole time. Okay. The only time we left the Czech Republic actually was for the beach scene. We shot that in Germany. With all the men chasing us. So yeah, that was in Germany. But everything else was in Prague, and the reason it was in Prague is because Prague was never bombed in World War II. Fun fact. Prague was never bombed in World War II because I think Hitler wanted to like embarrass the Czech Republic by making Berlin look better. So I don't remember why exactly, but yeah, it was never bombed, and so therefore you had all of this architecture from all these different epochs of European history.
Yeah.
And so you could pretty much find, if you needed to have some place look like London, there was a place that was going to look like London. Paris, there was going to be a place that looked like Paris. And so pretty much the Vatican. So pretty much everywhere we went, they would have this giant green screen just blocking off an entire street. So it would go from one rooftop to another rooftop in the background. And then from there, the special effects folks just kind of would plop in Big Ben or the Eiffel Tower or whatever it was.
Okay, that's
So,
crazy. I didn't
yeah.
know that. I thought you actually went all over.
Mm-mm.
That's pretty
No,
cool.
actually, there was this moment I had with this kid. I was driving from Las Vegas back to Los Angeles, and it was just sort of like this. I was at a gas station just randomly, and this college kid, he sees me, he goes, "You were in Eurotrip? Oh, I love that movie. Oh my God, my friends and I used to watch it all the time, dude. We went everywhere you went. We went to Paris, we went to Berlin." He lists all the locations. He lists all the stops from the map and everything. He's like, "We even went to Bratislava. We went to Bratislava too. I'm just like you did." And I go, I didn't go to Bratislava, dude. We shot everything in Prague. And his whole face is, what? And I was like, "So how was Bratislava?" He was like, "Terrible." I was like, "All right, well, sorry."
But if you had 35 cents, you were rich.
If you had a nickel, yeah, you could pretty much do whatever you want. That was actually also kind of true. There was the exchange rate was such that in the Czech Republic, you were living pretty well on the per diem. You didn't have to sweat it too bad. Yeah, that's nice.
That beach scene you mentioned. How the heck did they get all those guys to do that?
They actually, that's a good question. They actually sent out a casting call specifically to nudist groups. So they hit up nudist groups and said, "Hey, do you want to hang out all day with no clothes on the beach and be filmed?" And they had to turn people away. They had to turn people away. They actually had more than they needed, and they said, yeah. So they had to actually.
Picturing the casting director that had to take that assignment. Like that? Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Yes.
Yeah.
Nope.
I think
you're way too good shape. Get out of here.
I think it's one of those. I think it was one of those jobs that just kind of kept getting kicked down the ladder. So eventually, there's a PA. There's like a production assistant whose job it was
the
to do
caterer.
that. Yeah. I don't think. Yeah.
That's awesome. Does anybody have any questions? By the way, I've been doing all the time here. Yeah, fire away.
I know, like you guys and your characters are like super funny and everything, and I'm sure there was a lot of bloopers because nobody could hold back their laughter. But in the little bit that you did with Cass, I'm wondering if you guys broke him at any point
Are you talking about the little bit that we shot
inside the house.
garage? Well, I don't know. No, I mean by that point we were just so dialed in. That was during a period where we were just hustling those characters. We loved those characters so much. AJ pretty much did that. We did that out of pocket. We paid. Misha had some time, and he was wanting to come down to LA anyway to visit his family. So we just worked it out with him. We paid for his flight, and that was shot in Phil Segresia's garage. And and we just produced that all ourselves. And AJ, it was pretty much AJ financed it. He bankrolled it, and we just put it together. But it was that clip I think that helped us get the web series. But no, I mean by that time, and Misha's just such a pro. I don't know if he's ever. I mean, I'm sure he has, but I have a hard time envisioning him breaking on camera because he is such a pro. He's fantastic. Yeah. Do you have a question?
Oh yeah, you were in an episode of House of Lies. How was it like working with Kristen Bell?
She was great. She was great. She was pregnant at the time, so she couldn't really get up behind her from behind her desk. But yeah, she was super professional. Yeah, she was fantastic, friendly, just nice. You know, I mean, we only had that one scene, but yeah, it was great. She was fantastic.
Love it. I picture her as like a really funny extroverted. Is that what she's like in real life, or is she more introverted and quiet?
No, she's. I wouldn't say she's introverted, but she's also not gregarious. She's not very she's not explosive. But I think also she was pregnant at the time, so I think she kind of had and you know she had a lot going on. I think personally, but you know she's extremely quick-witted and very very gracious and a real pleasure to work with.
Awesome. Any other questions? What's your favorite role? Is Harry the...
It might be Harry. It might be Harry because I mean, you know, that's the only time where you know we got done with the episode and we didn't want to stop.
Yeah.
You know, usually you do a guest star on a show and you're like, great, you know, check clears, great, pay the agent, great, and next thing, you know, what's next? On that thing, you know, all of us, you know, Brittany, Austin, me, Dustin, you know, we were just like, how can we keep doing this? Like, we want to keep doing this. How do we keep this going? And so yeah, I would say that because you know that's extremely rare. I think when you get a not only just one actor but a group of actors who fall in love with the character so much that they just do it for free of their own, you know, out of their own pocket and just want to keep going.
So how fast would you fly up to Vancouver if they said we got an episode of Ghostbusters last season?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if AJ's doing it,
Yeah, you got to do that. What if they said you're dying?
Well, it's the last season, you know. It's the last season, and I think it'd be, even if we do, we will have been the longest lived characters on the show because we are the longest lived characters on the show now.
Yes.
But even if we died, you know, we came in on season 1, so we would have been around for 14. What is it? 14 seasons? I think on the 14th now.
15th.
15. So 15 season.
The
Yeah.
final season. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Is there any roles that you've turned down that you wish you hadn't turned down?
No, every role I've turned down, I am very glad I turned
Very
it
glad,
down.
yeah.
Yeah.
It came out and you went, dodged a bullet there.
Yeah. Or you know, or if it came out at all. I mean, there's plenty of roles I wish I'd turned down.
Oh yeah.
But you know, no, there's no role where I said no, I'm not going to do that, and then it came out and it blew up. I mean, there's plenty of roles that I didn't get that I went on to, you know, the fantastic properties. I mean,
Tell us any of those?
well, I mean, I went pretty far on Big Bang Theory.
Oh yeah.
You know, Chuck Lorre, he cast me in a bunch of stuff, and he brought me in, and you know, went through the process and went pretty far on that, and you know, it just didn't click, which is a bummer because you know, obviously Big Bang Theory went on to become a huge property, and you know, let's see, I went to network on Chuck. It went down. It was me. It was between me and it was the sidekick guy. So it was between me and I forget his name, but yeah, it was between me.
Oh yeah. I could have pictured that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions. When you first started acting and you were getting these commercial roles, in your head were you like, yes, I'm going to, this is going to be my life, I'm going to do this, or were you more like, I'm not sure if this is, you know, the path that's really going to work out because I'm spitting into a bucket? Like, did you have thoughts of like, this is not what I pictured?
Yeah, but you know, it definitely wasn't what I pictured. But you know, it was one of those things where, you know, sometimes life comes at you, and you just gotta roll with it. And it was sort of like, I mean, it was just such a gift, you know, and it was something I loved doing.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, like I got into it when I was 10. I mean, there was a reason I was there, and you know, at a certain point, you kind of have to, you know, like even if you don't believe in an almighty or whatever, you have to believe that there's some reason you're doing it. There's some reason you're there, and you know, so yeah. I mean, I guess what it is though is that I never actually bothered to picture what it was, and I just kind of accepted.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I got this opportunity, and when you get an opportunity like that, you don't say no. I'm not going to do that. I'm I'm not gonna, work in film and television and get paid for it and not have to get a real job. Like you're like, okay, great, like if this is an opportunity that I have, I'm gonna take it. So, so that's what it was, and I think growing up in LA too, it always seemed like legitimate work, right? It never really seemed like, I remember someone was like, "Oh, it's so great you're chasing your dreams." I'm like, "I'm not chasing my dreams. I'm doing my job." Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Working.
Yeah, like, cause growing up in an industry, in the industry town, it's like that's the industry.
Yeah.
It's like you work in Pittsburgh and you work at a steel mill and someone's like, "You're chasing your dreams." No, I'm working at a steel mill in Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? Like I'm working in the industry that my town is built on.
Yeah,
Basically.
exactly.
So so it made a certain kind of sense.
Yeah. Sorry, lost my train of thought for a second there. Yeah, again, feel free to just raise your hand if you have any questions. Where was I going with this? Eurotrip.
Mm-hmm.
I went. So, are we all Supernatural fans or Eurotrip fans here? Eurotrip?
Supernatural.
Supernatural? Yeah, they love the Supernatural. Yeah. Did you sneak anything off the set? Without incriminating yourself.
You know what? I did. I managed to grab a hold of those. Well, because we thought we were going to. I mean, even when we were shooting the episode, we were talking about, what are we going to do when we get back to LA? Because we were all from LA, and we were based in LA. And so we were like, what are we going to do when we get back to LA? We're going to shoot some more, blah, blah, blah. And so I did kind of sneak a few buttons. I had like these buttons on my jacket.
But not the jacket.
Not the jacket itself. I turned that back. But I did manage to sneak away with a few buttons.
That's awesome. That's cool. If you guys haven't seen, Mike Perry, he's an artist down here on in the Vendors Hall. He's made an exclusive print just for the show with the guests on it that he drew himself. There's an awesome picture of Harry Spangler that he's like with the headlamp.
Oh, yeah.
So you gotta go check that out. I think they're only like $10. Have you seen it yet?
Yeah, I signed.
Oh yeah, I got you to sign it. I got
Yeah.
one for myself, and I got all the guys to sign it too. So yeah, you gotta check that out. Our time is actually up. So if there's no more questions, we can stay a little longer. Hey, a question.
Was it interesting, like, working with Misha, to see him go from Misha, like, straight into Castiel? Like, was that kind of like an interesting thing to watch? Because he's two very different people.
Yeah, I mean, it was impressive. You're just kind of like, that's what acting is. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people who, a lot of actors are just kind of one way on set, and then they kind of do the acting, and they're kind of similar. It's just kind of a slight variation. They kind of do the thing, but yeah, with Misha, he's he's kind of just a fun, normal kind of whatever guy, and then he goes boom into Castiel, and he's and it's that transformation. Yeah, it's impressive, and it's a bit of a didactic as far as acting goes.
Yeah, it's funny for me especially, seeing someone on the screen, because we brought in a lot of guests over the years. See someone on the screen, and then you meet them in person, you're like, they're totally doing acting.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's so good. So, I thank you everyone for coming. I think Travis is going on a break. We're gonna have some lunch, but he will be at his table later. Feel free to stop by and check out these shirts. You gotta see these Ghostfacer shirts. They're amazing. You only have like 3 left.
I got 3 left.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
everybody.
it.
Thank you.
How are you guys?
Good.
Enjoying your con?
Our first time
It's
here.
our first match.
It's our first con as
Yeah.
well.
I'm
Yeah.
glad it's this one.
Yeah.
All right. This is Peter Columbus, everybody. I'm
Okay.
Sarah.
Hi.
Conan, and we'll be here to answer your questions today. So, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself first?
My first time at this particular con, but it's cool to be here. But maybe some of my work, Goku and Dragon Ball Z and Stargate Universe, and Rolf from Ed, Edd n Eddy, among other things. But that's probably the most recognizable, and it's probably why you showed up. I'm hoping.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess a personal question myself.
Yeah.
What got you into it years and years and years ago? What was the first thing that you remember that get you into it?
I would get in a lot of trouble at school doing voices and stuff like that. And my earliest, I'm aging myself now, but the Carol Burnett show back in the 70s, I was in early school then, and I would worship Tim Conway and the characters that he would portray. So I would do imitations of, like, you know, the old guy that he'd do, or you know, Mrs. Wiggins and Mr. Tudball and all that, and I'd get in trouble a lot doing voices. And then eventually later on in life it turned into a bit of a career, so I got lucky.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
The bullying wears out. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's super neat.
Yeah, I mean, we can open up questions anytime. We just
You guys have any particular questions that you came here going, I want to ask you?
No.
No, we just kind of said
We
listen.
just came to listen.
Okay.
Okay.
How about you, tell us about your most favorite thing that you've done. Like, I know there's a lot of them, so like pick the top one, and you can give me two. Like, give me the second one if it's too hard, but give me the top one.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot. I don't know if there's a particular top. Probably the most personal, the biggest thrill for me was I'm a huge hockey fan. I don't know if you guys are hockey fans or not, but I got sent out to a commercial audition once for Chevy, and it was with Bobby Orr, and I knew the director because I'd worked with him before. So I went to the audition, did it, and he goes, yeah, so we'll see you on set. And they never really say that. And I'm like, oh no, that would be great. And he's like, no, trust me. And I'm like, so I went home like, is he serious? Because I'm gonna freak out to meet Bobby Orr. And sure enough, like the next day I got the call, and he's like, yeah, you got the part. And it's like, God.
That move.
If you go to the internet right now, the commercial, if you go to YouTube, you can see the commercial. And it all had to do with Bobby Orr drives a Chevy van because his entourage like has room to fit in. So he had like his sushi chef and his personal trainer and his bodyguard, and I was his knee specialist. Right? And I had a cane, right? So they gave me a cane to walk around in, and I just improvised a thing as I'm getting in the van. And Bobby Orr's right there, and I just stopped and I went and I just handed him the cane, and he grabbed it. It was like. So if you go to YouTube, you can see the commercial. So that was a little improv thing, but I brought my hockey cards to like set, and I got the picture, the famous shot of him scoring the goal against St. Louis, flying through the air, and I got that blown up. But I didn't know how open he would be to autographs, you know, because it's a work environment, so you don't really want to bother him. But I was in the trailer, and there was another little kid in the commercial, and he just walked in and he's like, hey, how you doing, Bobby Orr? And I'm like, I know who you are. I know who you are. And the kid handed him something. Would you mind signing these? He's like, sure. And then I think I pushed the kid's head out of my way. I was blinded with excitement. I was like, out of my way.
Mine.
And then he signed my things, and I got pictures with him. And he was just telling us firsthand stories, hockey stories all day about, like, you know, we were like kids, you know, like when your grandparents, you're sitting around as a kid at Christmas and you just, more stories. That's what we were like all day. So tell us a story. What do you think of Don Cherry? Love him. Here's a story. And then here's a story about Phil Esposito. I'm like, oh my God. You know, if you're a hockey fan, you're in heaven. You're being told firsthand stories by Bobby Orr, and it was like one of the coolest days ever.
That is
Another kind of a thrill was I was going over the Burrard Street Bridge, driving into downtown in Vancouver. My agent calls and she says, or he says at the time, he goes, they want to hire you. There's a movie coming to town and they want to hire you, and no audition. And I'm like, which rarely happens, occasionally, but it's rare. And I was like, great. And he goes, so you're working with Angelina Jolie. And I'm like, what? What the hell are you talking about? Like, I'm going over the bridge, just driving casually. He goes, yeah, so you got a gig with Angelina Jolie. I'm like, what the hell are you saying to me right now? So I pulled over to just make sure I heard it correctly. And I'm like, really? So I had like four days on set with Angelina Jolie playing her boss in a movie called Life or Something Like It. And it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool gig. Yeah. And it was so neat because you know, at the time Tomb Raider had come out. And I remember I was working with her one day, and then I went home, watched The Tonight Show, and she was a guest, and I was working with her the next morning, and I was like, this is not possible. This is time travel. It's just, you know, astral plane traveling, and like, how are you? So the next day I was like, how did you possibly record the Tonight Show? She goes, well, they recorded like 4 or 5 o'clock, and I'm like, yeah. She goes like, yeah, and then they just drove me to the airport, and back in Vancouver by like midnight, and she was back on set at like 6 a.m. and I'm like, that's crazy.
So do you sleep, Charlie?
Yeah, it was just weird to be the first-hand interaction with her, and then see her on a talk show that night, and then work with her in the mornings. It's doable. Time being in a plane, it's like a 2.5-hour flight. It's doable, but you just don't think that they actually do it, but they do. They work very hard.
Respect, right?
Yeah, yeah. What other?
Do you have a question?
I do.
Yeah.
I know you from a different show. I kind of like a smaller role.
Right.
But I know you as Big Daddy McColt from My Little Pony. What was like playing that role?
It was a pretty good time. It was really neat. Because I know the director of the series. He's actually a friend of mine. I've worked with him numerous times, and I know all the cast on My Little Pony. I worked with all of them before, so it was a really comfortable environment going in. But it was one of these things, you go in an audition and they give you usually get a sketch of the character, an illustration, an artist's rendition of what the character looks like, and a little bio, and then you come in and audition. So he looked like what he looked like, and for me, I'll glance over the bio, so I know that I'm not really far off, but for me, it's all about the illustration of what the character's gonna look like, and pretty much right away I will come up with a voice, for me, anyways, I could, because it's all about stereotype, really. If the character looks this way, then it's probably going to sound this way, unless they really go against type. But for Big Daddy McCult, it was like, he's got a feud with the Hillfields.
The Hillfields, yeah, I remember that.
The Big Daddy McCult. It was, it's always fun. I love doing accents. I grew up doing accents and stuff, any kind of accent. So for me, getting to do a big Texas accent was fun.
Yeah, that sounds pretty fun.
I've played some tricks on some friends too. One time, this is a not so nice one, but we were on Stargate Universe, and we were nominated. The show was nominated for a Gemini Award. Geminis are kind of the Canadian equivalent to the Emmys, right? And they were being held in Toronto, so producers of Stargate were nice enough to fly the whole cast out, all of us to Toronto, put us up, had dinner, we went to the show, and it was just the producers on that show were the nicest and most caring producers that I think I've ever worked with in my life. Genuinely great people, like up and down. Like to this day, I stay in touch with a few of them via Twitter and things like that, and I see some occasionally in person. So we're going out there, and it was me and Patrick Gilmore were getting picked up at the same time. So they sent a car to pick us up in the morning to get our flight, and I knew they were going to pick up Patrick first. So, because we lived close enough to one another, but I knew they were going to pick him up first. So I called him up. I went to Starbucks, and then this idea struck me, and I go, okay, let's screw around with him. So I got on my phone, I used Skype to call so my number wouldn't come up, so it wouldn't recognize it. And then he answered, he's like, yeah, hello, and I could tell he was running around getting ready, packing, and I just pretended to be like this East Indian cab driver, right? Just casually calling, oh no, the limo driver. And he's like, yes, hello, and I go, yes, Patrick Gilmore, please. Yes, what? Yeah, listen, I sleep in a little bit and I'm going to be late coming to you today. And he's like, what are you talking about? I don't know if I'm going to make it on time. Maybe, you take a later flight or something. I was like, no, I can't take a late flight. And he completely bought into it and was panicking. And he's like, no, and then you have to pick up Peter Columbus. I don't know what you're talking about. You can't be late. And then I just broke up, and he was like, oh, Jesus. And then we told all the producers at the airport, and Carl Binder, one of the producers, I thought he was going to split a gut, like he was laughing so hard, but he completely fell for it. So,
That's beautiful. I hear what you said. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
What was your craziest flight? Like, what have you, because you were talking about you were doing, what is yours then? Like, you ever had some crazy flight times where you've been like here and then here and then here and then here?
Yeah, one time, I'm originally from Vancouver, so we have a place in Vancouver, but we have a home in LA as well, so we split time. So we were down in LA at the time, and I got a call at 8 p.m. from a producer friend of mine in Toronto. He goes, so where are you? And I go, in LA right now. And he goes, okay, we wrote this game show, and the guy who wrote the show was going to be the host, and he just got laryngitis. So can you be at the airport by 10 p.m. to fly out to Halifax? And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, can you do that? I go, yeah, okay. I did. He goes, you get to Toronto, you're gonna go to the Air Canada Lounge, they'll give you a Bible of what the show is, and I got to learn all the hosting duties and learn the show, and then film in the morning. So it's gonna be a red eye, get in there, and then go to set and film. And so I got to the airport, I missed that flight because I just couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And then they had a flight at midnight, so I got the midnight flight, going into Toronto about 5 or 6 in the morning, I think, with the time change, I can't remember. Went to the Air Canada Lounge, the big Manila envelope waiting for me with all the instructions of what the show is, and trying to learn the script, but very little sleep. And so I landed in Toronto, Toronto, got to Halifax, and then they went straight to set. I didn't even go to the hotel, and then we started filming like an hour later. And I got through it amazingly well, I think, considering no sleep and just not even knowing what it was. And then we did the taping, and unfortunately the show didn't get picked up, but it was a really neat idea for a show. It had to do with improv, so it's improvisers, and they had really neat games like, okay, we're gonna play a clip of the news, and you have to do the commentary because the sound's off, and they had a really neat games. There were a lot of really talented people like Ryan Belleville, who's a stand-up comic and improviser, very funny guy. So it did get picked up, but it was a strange one, kind of round the clock, get to work. The other time it was another commercial, this commercial thing in Toronto, and they had a commercial in Vancouver, the auditions, and then I got a call back, and they go, we're gonna fly you. They want to fly you to Toronto for the callback, and you're gonna get there. And again, it was a damn overnight flight to keep me tired. Overnight flight. You're gonna get in at 9, and then you're gonna have your callback at noon with the director and your pretend wife in the commercial. And if they don't hire you, they're gonna fly you back that night. And if they do hire you, then you get to stay and do the commercial. I'm like, wow, this is weird.
Wow.
So that's what we did. And then the good part was I got picked up in the same car as the director, so we got to chat on the way to the studio. And then I guess we bonded well enough, and callback went good. And then I'm waiting, and it's like I was supposed to know by like 1 p.m. and no call. I'm like, oh, they're sending me home. So I had my bags packed and everything, and then about 3 o'clock I got a call and go, no, you got it, you're gonna stay. And I'm like, okay. Yes. So then I call up all my comic buddy friends in Toronto and go out drinking. Celebrate. I wasn't working the next day, so it's, enjoy Toronto for a while.
That's what you did. You enjoy random visits.
Yeah, no, that's the coolest part, is getting to go to places that you've never been to before, whether it's for a commercial or filming or a movie or television thing.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the oddest question you've ever asked?
Oh, that's a question. I don't
This
know.
is the oddest question?
Yeah, I think this is the oddest question right now. What is your oddest question? Is the oddest question I've been asked.
Okay, here's actually, my ex and I used to do Vegeta and Coke.
Yes.
Actually, yes, we
Yeah.
So what's your relationship like with Vegeta? Like, I mean, you were talking about him earlier. We were talking about him earlier. What is your relationship like?
With the actor who plays Vegeta?
Yes. Do you know him? Do you-
Good. No, he's my buddy. He's Brian Drummond, and we're buddies. We've done a number of conventions together. We have another one coming up next month, and then in November it looks like we're going to Calgary for an event. I shouldn't say yet. It shouldn't say yet because it's not fully confirmed.
That's okay.
I wish I could. But it looks like we're going to Calgary. And we've been to a number of conventions together, and yeah, it's interesting. I've met both Chris Sabat and Sean Schimmel before, and I mean, they consider themselves friends, I would say, and it's good when your compatriot is an actual friend of yours.
Yes.
It makes working together a lot easier. There's very few times that you're going to work with people and it's like, I cannot stand this person.
Yeah.
But I've seen it before on set where like the kind of the lead on the show is a very difficult individual, and it kind of trickles on down, and you can tell it stresses out the crew and it stresses out everybody. So usually if the number 1 or 2 person on the call sheet are cool, everything's gonna be fine. You can figure it out like a day or so. It's like, all right, this shoot's gonna be good.
Have you ever dressed up as good?
I was at a convention, somebody made me put a hat on, the Goku hair and the outfit for a photo, and I was like, yeah, sure.
Yes, so he is
So there is a photo of that floating around somewhere.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Let's find it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, and does anybody have any more questions? You're new. Do you have any questions for this lovely gentleman?
Well, I'm just curious of what commercial was he in?
You know what? There was a streak around year 2000, around there, just prior to that, where I had this streak of commercials, and it culminated with. It's odd to have a lot of commercials on the air because usually if you're seen in 1 or 2,
Yeah.
clients kind of don't want to hire you because you're recognizable in one commercial, right? And they don't want to use you in theirs. But I was watching hockey playoffs with my buddies, and a commercial break came on, and there were 5 commercials, and I was in 4 of them. And of course, I just get the piss taken out of me because they're my friends. They're like, Jesus, we gotta look at your ugly mug. David, you're right here. We can't stand you.
Were they like kind of funny commercials or just serious commercials?
Yeah, mostly were comedic commercials. Yeah, because you got to play off. I mean, I started in stand-up comedy and then improv, and so I would get sent out early on in my career to a lot of commercials, as most actors do, and the comedy came in handy because comedy timing is a good thing to have in those scenarios where a certain look at a certain time can get you the gig. So I think it worked out for me a few times.
Being quirky.
Yeah.
What was your biggest project you've ever done? Was it direct?
But biggest, you mean like maybe well known? You mean, or
No, I mean
just
by
kind
time frame. How long took you to do the project?
of? Oh, that would have been Ed and Eddie.
Oh, okay.
It was a span of over 10 years.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
So of all the seasons that we did, it took over 10 years to do it. Because they would kind of disappear for a while, and then we get a call and say, oh yeah, we're gonna do like 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we come back and then disappear again, and that's how they would do it. So that was the longest span of time. Yeah.
What's the one that you put the most work into? I guess. And how did it make you feel when you finished it?
There's one scene that comes to mind that I put a lot of work into. It was a pilot for, I think it was CBS. I might be getting the network wrong, but it was called Amped, and it was kind of it was slightly set in the future where a virus was causing people to have all their emotions and anger amp up and turn on into almost zombie-like creatures. So it was kind of a disease that people were trying to squelch. So they would round these people up and kind of get them out of the way. And I was playing a police officer, and we had a scene where I had a 3-page monologue. So I worked on it for weeks. Because when I got to set, we started filming at about 1 in the morning, and they had a cop car up on a flat deck, and we just started driving around the east end of Vancouver at 2 in the morning, and I was in a cop car with my partner, and I had a 3-page speech that I just had a walkie-talkie, and I would start, and then people in the street saw a cop car up on a flat deck in, you know, like kind of the drug area of Vancouver, so people were just swearing at us and screaming at us the whole time for hours because we kept going around the same block, and I'm screaming at us. And then I would just get here over the walkie and say, yeah, can you pick up a line from here? And luckily I had memorized it for like 3 weeks, so the shooting went really well, because if I didn't know what I was, as an actor, if you didn't know your lines, then you'd be in trouble because there's a lot of distractions and people swearing at you and throwing things, and it's really late at night, and you got to pick it up from certain spots in the script, and that was cool because the script supervisor, when we got off set, crawled out of the cop car, and he walked over and he's like, "Was that you doing the lines?" And I go, "Yeah," and he shook my hand. He goes, "That was great." So it was a cool moment as an actor to just, you know, when the hard work that you put in gets recognized. It doesn't always, but that was one moment where just a handshake did it.
Shot it off, you made his job easier, so he was like,
Yeah, it really did work out. But yeah, that was funny when just, you know, people high on whatever were just screaming the filthiest things at you for hours.
Do they like pull you around on a flat deck?
Yeah, the cop car was up
That
on the
would
flat
probably
deck.
be tripping them out too, like wondering what the heck.
Well, they didn't know what was happening. All they saw was a cop car that looked like it was broken down
Yeah.
with cops still in it and lights.
So is that how they normally do it? Like pretty low down though, it would have to be.
Yeah, we were low
You don't
down,
wanna
but
be
up
high.
on, yeah, so we're pretending to drive and yeah, that was interesting.
wow, you're alive. Well,
Yes,
yeah,
no, we're
expanded.
fine.
All right, well, how much time do we have? I guess is the question. As it is, we still got. No, we don't. Yes, we do. It's 12:57. Do you want to go for a little bit longer?
I mean, if there's any other questions, otherwise we can leave it up to you.
Oh, we have a question from the monkey in the back.
Playing as Goku, what is your favorite line?
For some reason, the line, well, that tub of lard was a good warm-up. For some reason, that line resonates with me in that particular fight scene, and I don't know why. Yeah. But there's a lot of there's a lot of lines where at conventions people come up and say, "Hey, can you say this?" Or, "Hey, can you say this?" It's like, and some of them I don't even remember because it was so long ago. But it refreshes a memory, and you're like, "Yeah, okay, sure, okay, fire that up." One funny one was it was a convention, I think, in a smaller town in Texas, and this kid comes up and he's like, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years old, and he grew up on the current actor that plays Goku, so it wasn't me, but he knew what the show was. And he just comes up and he looks at my banner and he's like, "Hey, you played Goku?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's hear it." So then I did the voice and he goes, "Huh, must have been a long time ago."
I have one more question.
Yeah.
I heard that you didn't just do Big Daddy McColt in My Little Pony. What kind of other voices did you do?
I did another character called Fashion Plate, which was kind of a flashy kind of paparazzi, Entertainment Tonight kind of interviewer. Said, "I didn't talk like that. It was very exciting. So, what happened next? Hi, it's Fashion Plate." It's kind of big over the top, and that was one of the other characters in the show.
Yeah.
It was really neat too when I got to go. I had done 2 or 3 of them. There was another one I did a couple of other peripheral characters, but I got invited to a pony convention after doing just three episodes. But the pony conventions, I mean, for those who haven't been, it's quite a sight because you know everybody really goes to town dressing up, and it's pretty amazing. And on my it was announced, and then I think it was through Twitter, one of the bronies, who's very dedicated, goes, "Oh, you're coming to Northwest BronyCon?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, so I'm gonna carve a your character because it's a tradition. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he goes, no, you'll see when I get there. And he would get like about a 3/4 inch block of solid wood, and he carved my character in it perfectly, painted and everything, and handed it to me. I'm like, how long did this take you? It's about a month. So he carved it out. I still have it, and it's he just, when new actors come in, it's almost like an initiation for him that he feels the need to put in this time, and that's what's so amazing about this kind of community, animation fans and just fans in general, that sometimes they do these amazing things where you really don't feel worthy. You're an actor, you're going in and doing your job, but gratification you get back sometimes is just a little overwhelming. So thank you.
Well, we've got a new person here today. Do you have any questions for the lot of you? All right. How many cons have you been to? Actually, sorry, what's the first con you ever went to?
First one was Dragon Con. So it's in Atlanta, and it takes over the entire city. Because 5 or 6 hotels are connected through these sky bridges, so you really never really touch the ground if you don't want to. But it's overwhelming. If you've been to San Diego Comic-Con before, this is arguably bigger than that. Their cosplay parade is probably about an hour long, and we're talking regiments of stormtroopers, like the 501st, regiments of them. And there you have regiments of Star Trek, regiments of Star Wars, other Star Wars characters, an army of the 300. So, you got these ripped dudes, you get 300, like more of them, there's hundreds of them just walking out through the streets. So it is an amazing sight. The costumes there are just out of this world. They have a costume contest that I've hosted before, and it's, these people they must take more than a year on some of them, because they're mechanized and they've got remote controls, and some of them are like 20 feet high. Like I don't even know how they get them there. I mean, that's not a carry-on item, but the one that won the contest when I was there was it was a 20-foot mechanical dragon that somebody was operating, and I'm like, how do you even begin to construct something like that? They're just mind-boggling. Some of these people should get jobs in the art department or special effects in film, or maybe some of them do, because
I hope that they do.
It's an incredible skill. Yeah, and it goes from that to, women will walk by and you're like, well, that's a good outfit. No, she's naked. That's paint. That's okay. All right. So, you see all sorts of things in Dragon Ball. All right, it's runs the gamut. But the costumes are constantly, mind blowing. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the first one you went to. Is that still
Yeah.
your most fabulous one in your mind? Is that
It was just overwhelming, the amount of people, where it's the floor level of hotels. I mean, they put bars everywhere, but it's wall to wall people at night, and it's just endless. And the coolest part was, I've been to DragonCon I think four or five times now, and I've never seen like a fight or a kerfuffle of any kind, or anybody getting hurt, or it's 120,000 people all getting along and having a good time. And that's, it's like a nerdgasm. Everybody's having a really cool time, and nobody's judged.
Where was this?
It's in Atlanta, and it happens every Labor Day weekend, so it's happening in a week and a half. So I'm not going this year. I was there last year. I'm not going this year, but it's an incredible event. Yeah.
I've been maybe taking concepts every so
No, you should. It's quite a sight to see. This is a great con. In its third year right now, so it's consistently growing, which is great. But to see one of these ones that are just conventions on steroids kind of thing, where they take over entire cities, it's amazing to see.
nerds take to the streets.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, well, that was the first time I went to San Diego Comic Con. The funny thing was like late at night, kind of the events are kind of winding down, but there's still people in the streets everywhere. So you see, like the Hulk ordering a sandwich, from a Subway. Can I get one? It's like, oh, the Green Lantern's like,
Yeah.
grabbing a Happy Meal.
Yes, yes.
It's the coolest stuff to see.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's just fun to watch people's weapons all the way up. They're strong.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I know where you are.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about anime and we've talked about commercials, but we haven't talked about, we talked to teeny bit on Stargate, but we didn't really talk about that. You said this, the people that run it, right? Which is
They were great,
Here, I
yeah.
love Stargate, I grew up with Stargate, and MacGyver.
Yeah.
But Stargate itself, how did you feel playing that character? Like,
I loved it. It's funny you mentioned MacGyver. One of my earliest auditions was my agent calls and they go, "Oh, you're auditioning for the guy who kills MacGyver," and I was like, "Oh." And I went and I like left the kind of a bit of a beard going and looked like this Mid-Eastern assassin. And like I say, it was one of my first auditions because I remember I screwed up the casting director. She brings me in and I read for the part. And instead of looking at her doing my lines, I was looking over her head as if the character was over there.
Oh.
And she like stopped me. She goes, "Can you do it to me?"
Oh.
And I was like, "Sure." So, I'm over my head already. But anyways, I got a call back, and then it came down to me and one other guy. And the other guy got it, but then I was gonna be the guy. I was one guy away from the guy that shot my guy.
I will tell my dad that we're huge MacGyver fans, so it's
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch this right there.
But you were asking about Stargate, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had an audition. It was late December. I think it was between New Year's and or Christmas and New Year's. So I went in and they had these generic sides of like just scientists. So I went in and read for it, and then my agent called called back for Universe, and I was like, "Oh, what's Universe?" And she goes, "No, the Star Trek or Stargate Universe." And, "Oh, yeah." So went in, read for it, and Andy McKeiter was the director, directed a lot of episodes, and it went well. And then by the time I got home, they go, "Yeah, you got it, great." But then the show, I don't know how many people have seen it. We're on this ancient ship in space, and it was a little Game of Thrones-ish where you never knew who was going to survive and die off. So we were me and Patrick Gilmore were kind of buddy in the show. Our characters were pals. We had a lot of scenes together. Whenever they would hand up new scripts for the next episode, like they were still warm off the photocopier, we'd always just flip to the last page and look for our names to see if we survived. And we're like, "Yes, page 60. Yeah. And then some of our friends didn't, and we're like, "Oh my god!" And it's like a funeral because there's somebody that you like working with, and it's like, "Okay, this is Haig's last scene because he dies." Sorry, just Josh Blacker. Oh, you shoot yourself in the head. Damn, we're gonna miss you. Yeah, you felt it. That was the same thing when I was working on Beyond because my character was a fixer, assassin type guy, and I killed off a number of people. On a show, like,
You killed off another
yeah, and it's weird. Like when you're doing the final scene with them too, and they're like, "Hey, you're joking around." Then the next scene is, I'm in a locked car, and I just look over at him, and he thinks he's gonna get out, and I've already beat the crap out of him, full of blood, and then, then they show just me walking back from the forest and getting in my car. And then I look at the camera. And there's one blood splatter on the glasses, and just one, and then the scene's over. So it's just off them in the woods. So, but it's really bizarre as a fellow actor saying, "Sorry, offing you today."
Yeah, that's my job today.
Yeah.
The producer didn't want to do it, so.
Yeah. Yeah, but Stargate was it was just really cool because it was already a very well established franchise, and so it was a pretty big monster to be a part of. It was really neat.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Tapping Play in Universe.
She did.
With
She
blonde
did.
hair, right?
No, I think she still had the shorter blonde,
Yeah.
the shorter blonde hair.
What was working with Tapping Play? Sorry.
I didn't work with her directly because she was captain of is it the Hammond?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
doesn't have.
Right, so she came in on the Hammond during a space battle. So I think, that she was on there just a few times. We had a few kind of surprise guests from previous Stargates. One really neat one was French Stewart, guest starred once.
Terrible things.
He was one of the scientists who body swapped from Earth. So, but we got to interact with him in real time because he was in the original Stargate and he was famous from Third Rock from the Sun. So it was cool acting with these people, and so that was really neat. And then Robert Picardo was hanging around for a bit, and so it was some really cool people that would stop there from time to time. I remember one time I was sitting in the chairs in between takes with Patrick Gilmore, and I'm talking to him, and all of a sudden he just goes, and then he's off. And I didn't know what he was looking at, and it was Richard Dean Anderson was there on set that day. And he just ran up to him, excited as like a child who met Santa Claus. And he just ran up, and all I heard him say was, "Hey, Mr. Anderson, I'm Patrick Gilmore. I'm on the show. I'm one of the scientists. And I just want to say I met you when I was 9, and you were so nice. And I just wanted to say that thank you very much." I say, "Oh, well, thanks very much." And then he sits back down, and I'm like, "Really?
Yeah.
When I was 9? That's what you don't want to make the guy feel old? When I was 9? What the hell's the matter with you?"
It's okay, some kid will lose him.
Yeah. But he's just completely starstruck. It was hilarious. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'd do the same thing if I saw Richard Dean Anderson, not gonna lie. It was
Yeah.
a pivotal part of my life, so it's great, but yeah.
Yep. I had like kind of fanboyed a bit. I was at a convention in Hollywood, and at the end of the row was Keir Dullea. So you may not recognize the name, but in 2001 Space Odyssey,
Oh, yes.
he was Dave. Dave. So at the very, very end of the movie, the aliens kind of have him in this kind of sterile environment. It's kind of an animal in a cage kind of thing. But he's like a really, really old man. And that is exactly what he looked like now. Like they, back in like, no, when they do that, like 1969, I think.
And they like.
Nailed it. So then I went and got an autograph with him. I paid. I said, "Can I, excuse me, Mr. Dullea, can I get an autograph?" He said, "Sure." And I was like, "Oh, can you say, oh my God, it's full of stars?" And he's like, "Actually, that quote is from 2010. And I'm like, "You're right. I screwed it up. I met you and I screwed it up, but yes."
Damn it.
And he goes, "Well, how about I write this?" And he wrote, "Open the pod bay doors, Hal," on the autograph. And I was like, "This is a cool autograph." Like old school sci-fi.
I like the fact that you're personal when you give out autographs. You're just like, you gave me an autograph the other day.
Yeah.
It's just, I was over the moon. It was just,
Oh,
it was
that's-
good. I
thank
didn't
you. It's very
expect that.
kind.
You're so kind. And you talk about these other people that are so kind to you in the same aspect. Just yourself. You're just so
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You see some actors I've seen that come across as kind of distracted or just don't want to be there enough. If you don't want to be there, don't go. Don't come.
Thanks for wanting to be here.
So I do want to be here. I'm
I
glad I'm
heard
here.
that you
Thanks for
wanted to
having
be
me.
here. I was like, that is super cool. That's how I talk to my,
Yeah.
so, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, what do we have any more questions? Anybody here? All right, we have another story, I think.
Sure. We'll kind of wrap it up. Thank you for coming, guys, and hope you see you have fun downstairs.
Okay, all right,
Well, thanks.
yeah, okay. All right, so.
Nice intimate crowd.
Yes.
Are you guys part of it, or are you just hanging out? Okay. I'll make sure I talk loud.
All right, well, I guess the first thing that I asked, the last guy was, what was the first thing that got you into this? Like, what was that initial moment that you went, huh? I guess that.
I think the first time that I ever really thought about a particular movie that I saw that sort of affected me in a way where I really wanted to talk about it was a movie called Midnight Express. Has anyone ever seen that movie, Midnight Express? It's about a guy who tried to smuggle hashish out of Turkey, and they caught him right before he got on the plane, and so he ended up in a Turkey prison, and the U.S. were trying to get him out, but they couldn't, and he basically spent 15 to 20 years in a Turkish prison. Just amazing movie. It's called Midnight Express. You got to check it out. So I just remember how much that movie. I just remember thinking back because I was only about 15 or 16 when I saw the movie, and just how much it affected me. And so I was basically an inspiration to playing hockey mostly. And so I broke my femur playing hockey, and I was a musician in high school. And so when I was laid up, I was always a drummer, singer, and I thought, I've always wanted to play guitar. So I taught myself to play guitar and did lessons and stuff like that. And then I started to play in little pubs around Vancouver and up at Whistler, and I used to do that. And I started to meet people that were in the film and television industry, just through sort of more. I started just kind of being around more of an artistic crowd. And so I started to do improvisational comedy theater, and I started to do little bits of excerpts from plays, and I would go to study acting classes and stuff. And a woman came to watch us do a showcase for plays, and that woman actually now 32 years later is still my agent in Canada. And so she sent me out for an audition for a TV series back then that started in Vancouver called 21 Jump Street, and that was the first show that I ever booked a professional job on. So that was 1987, I think, 87 or 88. So. And so that's sort of how I got started.
That's actually
Yeah.
that's a much different route than the other guy.
Yeah.
So it's neat to see all the different
Yeah.
paths. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
well,
I basically, I guess if I hadn't have broke my femur, I may not have been in this job.
I'll have to tell my dad that you just broke his femur a year ago.
Oh,
huh?
oh, he did.
He's
Yeah,
going
it's
to
a
the
tough-
arts,
it's a
that's
tough
what
one
it
to
is.
break,
Yeah,
huh?
right.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. But he's a fighter, so yeah. Good job, by the way. You don't even know how to limp.
No, not
Which is
bad.
impressive.
Not
And I'm a
bad.
therapist, so like,
Oh, okay.
yeah. I'm like, nothing. All right. Well, I guess I'm gonna open the floor to everybody here and
Sure.
see if anybody has a question, because, yeah. Okay.
Just based on what you just said, what's your favorite genre to sing?
My favorite genre of movies, you mean?
To sing.
Oh, to sing?
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm probably a little more, I'm sort of a little more story, well, not that, I guess most songs are storytellers. I'm kind of Tom Petty-ish, Springsteen, my favorite Canadian artists have always been Tom Cochran, guys like that. I just enjoy that type of, I love all music, honestly. I'm not kidding you. If you sent me a CD and it had Anya and AC/DC and Metallica and Neil Young, I would love it. So I just love all music. But I think I'm a little more towards, like I said, the Springsteen, Tom Petty type of guy, as far as my taste for writing and stuff.
I thought
Yes,
right
how
there.
about you, sir?
So, White Chicks is one of the movies you're known for. So, I was wondering, when you're examining the room, because you're FBI, was that improv with the underwear, or is that your acting?
Well, let's see. Yes, that scene with the panty sniffing. That was, those were straight out of those were a brand new pair of panties out of a package. So I know I didn't have Marlon wear them for me. But
Yeah.
anyhow, this is my son. Yeah, I get ripped a lot of that because of that scene. He rips me a lot of that one. So. Yeah, that was, but we improv much in that particular scene. I mean, with the Wayans family, you do a scene like that, and you just improv all sorts of different reactions and jokes, and they just kind of pick the one that they like. So there were quite a few sort of different dialogue that we used for that particular. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
You're so welcome.
That's a
I'm a
great
really
question.
big fan.
That's a great
He knows your work well.
Yeah.
Huh. All right, well, anybody else? Yeah.
Especially with technology evolving over the years since when you first got started, How has that kind of auditioning, booking process changed over the years?
Did you say auditioning voting process?
Oh, booking.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, holy hell, man, no one votes me in. As far as everything, the industry since I started, just in general, one, how people watch movies has totally changed. I mean, most people watch movies on phones and iPads and at home now. A big difference right around the early 2000s, because I remember the first Benchwarmer movie that I did was the first movie I ever shot in digital. So the real change was right around then, around 2001 to 2003, where everything started to go from film to digital, which was a big deal. I think the platforms in which everyone can watch television now, and the difference with, back when I first started television, there was really mainly ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, like 5 or 6 were really the platforms for watching television, and or the business side of it, the platform to advertise, right? So back in the day when there were only those networks and you had those big shows like Friends and Seinfeld, that's why they were paid so astronomically, is because that was where all the advertising dollars were. Now think about it, there's FX and National Geographic has this TV show Vikings, and so there's all these other avenues to put your product on, but it also spreads out the advertising dollars. So that's a really big difference in sort of in what we do. Also, to the new technology of being able to, getting to your point about auditioning. Back in the day, what you would always go into the room and audition for producers and directors. And now what they do, because of self-taping and digital self-taping and stuff, they decide that instead of wasting money on having a director sit in a casting session, the director can be out doing location scouting while they pay the casting director, who is already going to be paid to be in the session. She just tapes those auditions, then the director comes back, let's say he's an LA director working in Vancouver, he comes back to his hotel and then he goes through the audition tapes. That's changed a lot too, which I don't really like, because I still really like to go into an audition room and talk with directors, because when sometimes my interpretation isn't always theirs, but unfortunately I can't call him at his hotel room or vice versa. So he's basically seeing my interpretation of a character, and now instead of him making the adjustments, he'll just go, yeah, I liked it, but it wasn't really what I felt about the character. Then he goes on to the next person who's auditioning. Whereas back in the day, if he liked you, he'd say, you know what, Lachlan, I like that take, but I was thinking he was more, let's say he's more angry at this point in the script, or he's more vulnerable. And so you make those adjustments, and all of a sudden now he goes, oh my God, that's the guy. So there's sort of a pro and a con of that. One, when you're doing self-tapes, like a lot of times if I'm away on location, I can just do a self-tape in my hotel room and or at my house, and I can just do it until I feel like it's perfect. Because I can just go, let's not send that one, let's do it again. And I can do it over and over until I get the one that I really like. Whereas when you're auditioning in a room, you don't want to sit there and say, actually, could we go again? Oh, could we go again? Finally, they'll just kick you out. So those are most of the major things that I've seen change a lot over the years. But as you guys know, they're just making less and less movies. Things are sort of I shouldn't say less movies. I feel like they're not making as many good movies. I don't know if you guys feel that way.
Feels like recycled.
Yeah, I think, but again, I look at it as an artist, and I look at it as a bit on the business side, and I go, well, the majority of film goers are kind of like my son's age to like 25, and so if I'm not really the guy that's going to go and pay money to not see films that I don't like, then they're just going to keep making Spider-Man 6 and whatnot, because it's all that's what makes them their money, right? So
Yeah.
I do get the business side of it as well, but there's a lot of, like I said, the vast majority of all the networks out there now, they've really created a lot of opportunity for people to get their product out there. And for me, I've seen television get better and better over the last 5 to 10 years. I think TV has really upped its game. There's some really good TV shows out there that are better than movies, you know. And what's happening too, and the reason that TV is a bit better, I find, is that a lot of the really good film writers, because they don't make as many movies anymore, are now writing for television. Like, for instance, the TV show Breaking Bad, they had a lot of really like high-end film writers on that show because they needed jobs. So that's been an advantage.
Well, and to top it off, people like series because they like to have a story that continues on instead of just the movie's over. You know.
And I really do think the new sort of the hour show Riverdale does 22 episodes a year. I think it's cooler to do more 13. I really like that sort of that 13 episode a year number because I find that the writers don't have to just sort of try to figure out a way to keep it going. You know, they can do it more of in a condensed style, and I think the audience really enjoys sort of that you know, sort of the Game of Thrones amount. You know, that 13 episodes a year I think is a really good number.
I love that in Doctor Who, and honestly, like it's probably BBC style because they think Doctor Who.
Yeah.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it just makes every script better because they don't have to figure out a way to fill 22 episodes of TV. That's hard to do.
And they put more meat into the actual episode,
Exactly.
in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for the question.
That's a good
I
question.
hope that was.
That was a great answer.
All right. Okay. Anybody else who's got a question?
Sorry, I'm a little late. Try not to interrupt.
That's okay. No worries. Have you got any questions for the fine man up here?
Let me sit down and
Yes. No, that's fine.
get a
Take
gist of what we're
breather.
talking about.
Go for it.
So you've done a lot of different styles of roles, but is there anything that you found extra challenging or any roles that you want to try out in the future?
Well, I think always, you know, I think the most attractive roles for me, and not that I've gotten to play them a lot, but I think really the main attraction for me is flawed heroes. So for instance, just to sort of like, to me, a flawed hero was Matt Damon's character in Good Will Hunting. You know, those type of characters, I think that, you know, that are struggling against an element and or a situation that holds them back from being the best that they can be, or you know, or just having vulnerabilities in characters. I like all genre of film. I know that sometimes people, sort of throughout my careers, you know, people would think that I was, you know, only like to do comedic sort of roles, or that some people think that, oh, I didn't know you did comedies, I always thought you just did dramas. And so I think everything has to start with story first. I think as far as when you read a script, you kind of gravitate to the story, you go, oh, that's a really interesting story to tell, and then you sort of go to the character. I really can tell you, I don't think in 30 years that I've really found that one role that I've been like, you know, I did an episode of a TV show called Without a Trace. Do you guys remember that TV show? So I played a character in there, and I don't know why I gravitate towards this 1 hour of television, but I played a character that was a young undercover police officer who was trying to infiltrate the mob by being I was pretending that I was a realtor, and I was trying to infiltrate the mob for money laundering through real estate, and I stumbled upon a situation with the Russian mob where they were bringing young girls from Russia and they were putting them into brothels, and I stumbled onto this, and I blew my cover to help save all those girls in the brothel, and then I had to go on the run from the mob. And so I think I did that episode of television somewhere around 2006 or 2007. And I remember the episode, if you ever wanted to watch it, it's on iTunes, and it's an episode called Lone Star. And I just remember that being like something that I thought was a great character to play, how I blew all of my dreams, you know, as a young police officer, because I kind of wanted to be Anthony LaPaglia, you know, like he was the guy that I looked at as a young cop, like that was the echelon that I was trying to achieve. And because at the end of the thing, he comes to tell me that the mob is after me, and I tell him I gotta go on the run. And so it was just an interesting sort of moment with him at the very end of the show, because one, I think he's an amazing actor, so it was really cool to work with him on that. But just that whole story really, it's just something that has always stuck with me. So that type of character I really like, I guess, those type of characters. Yeah, you know, and he blew everything. He blew his whole life to help save those girls, you know, because now he's, not only does he have to leave the police force, he's now has to run on the run from now this mob who probably, you know, because he took them down, are after him now. So I guess in a perfect world, they would have put me into witness protection, but you know, it's an hour of TV, so it's a little more traumatic than I just drove off with my wife into the sunset, right? I enjoy doing comedy. I've been lucky to do some fun comedies, and being in the movie Unforgiven and stuff. Those were really interesting moments for me. I think a lot was just for the fact that I was at that age, and it was Clint Eastwood and my first Western, so that was exciting.
His phone like sensitive. We're talking about westerns because it just like went off.
Exactly.
Sorry,
It was perfect.
I rushed in here, I was kind of unprepared, I was late.
I'm unprepared too. Rambling on.
Well, I was told yesterday by that gentleman over there that you had an interesting Q&A, and that's why I thought I'd come check it out, so, sorry for the interruption.
No, we're all good. So did that answer the question? But I still feel like I'm striving to play that character that I just...
As like a lead.
Yeah, like I want to, like... And maybe I'm not realizing that I'm jaded by it, but I just still am striving to be able to go home every night and just feel like I was so inspired by whether it was the director or the character or the story. And I'm sure that I could have been, or I have been along the way. I just haven't really felt it yet. You know, it's interesting because when I watch. We watch, let's just say, award shows, and I watch the Emmys, and I see a certain person go on the stage and win an Emmy for best dramatic performance, and they may say something like, you know, I've been so blessed, I can't wait every week to sit and do the read-through for the next episode because saying Aaron Sorkin's words are just so amazing. Well, I haven't had that. You know, I love doing Riverdale and whatnot, but it's, you know, Aaron Sorkin and those type of writers. It would be really interesting to just like see how great those scripts are from week to week, and or if it's just a really great movie, just to be able to be part of something like that. You know? So you know, maybe that's a good thing that I feel that way, because maybe that's just what keeps you the drive. Maybe that's how it is for people in life. You know, to always just feel like they're striving to achieve that. It may never be attainable, but at least that's your challenge for life. It might be like the game of golf, you know. Can you perfect the game of golf? Probably not. But you probably spend your whole life trying.
Exactly.
So maybe that's just the way I feel. And I don't want to sound like I'm jaded, but I just, you know, I just would love to be able to come home every night and gush to my wife about how amazing Steven Spielberg is. You know?
You'll get that day one day.
Well, you know, I've worked with a lot of fantastic directors and stuff, but you know, you see, you know, certain movies that you go to and you're just so like inspired, you know, the emotional drain of the story, and I just, when I come out of movie theaters of movies that I just love, I just go, oh my God, I cannot wait to be able to just do that once.
Is there a character on screen that makes you feel like that way that you perform? Like, because you watch movies yourself, is there a character that you've been like, that's just, you know, and that, because you said it makes you warm and fuzzy when you walk over and you like that movie, but is there a character that you found that you like? Or are you just a jack of all trades?
I mean, I'm very lucky that I've been able to play lots of different characters, whether they be, you know, high energy comedic characters, or serial killers, or, you know, FBI agents or detectives that are, you know, come across good, but then are the crooked cops. You know, I've had a lot of that, and I've enjoyed that. But you know, I guess what I really mean is sort of like movies like say Jeff Bridges and Crazy Heart, you know, that type of movie, or or Sean Penn in 29 Grams. You know, it's just an amazing, well, like an amazing story about having someone's heart, and then, you know, and then tracking down the woman that was married to them. Like, it's just that type of story is just really inspiring to me.
So you need to do really steep magic films.
Well, maybe. I mean, with depth, yeah. I mean, I think rom-coms are fun too.
Yes.
But I think, I don't
If
know.
it's story, not a flash.
Yeah. I think just anything with depth is interesting, you know, and style. I mean, gosh, I'm just a movie lover. So, you know, I would say that probably Tony Scott was one of my favorite. Like, the movie True Romance is a movie that I, like, if I could play Clarence Worley, like, that was such a great, but that's such a great, one, it's just a great script, the way they shot it, those characters. I mean, Quentin Tarantino does write really good characters when he's in his Tarantino mode, right? Whether it be Pulp Fiction or even his last film, the Hollywood one with Pitt, and that, it was good, you know, it was really interesting characters.
His stuff is.
Did you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did I hear you say something just a little while ago when I had my little noise there about Western? Did you say something about Western?
Yeah. Well, I've done three sort of like prominent Westerns. The first Western I was ever in was Unforgiven, which I shot in '91, and it was directed by Clint Eastwood. Morgan Freeman was in it, Gene Hackman, and that particular movie won the Oscar in 1992.
Unforgiven. That was I know it. I'm sure I've seen it. I'm blanking.
It was based on a Western gunslinger named William Money, who was played by Clint Eastwood. And so that movie won the Oscar in 1992. Clint Eastwood won for Best Director, and Gene Hackman won for Best Supporting Actor. And then the second Western I was ever in was a movie. I was on the movie with John Candy when he passed away in Durango, Mexico. So that movie was called Wagons East. So that was my second Western, and then I was in a really interesting sort of a smaller indie Western called Dawn Rider, which was kind of a remake of an old John Wayne movie. It was kind of along the same lines, and I did that with Christian Slater and Donald Sutherland and an actress named Jill Hennessy. So that was actually an interesting. It was an interesting little movie. It was on a smaller scale, so it wasn't, it wasn't Unforgiven, but it was a lot of fun to do.
Oh, that Unforgiven is a classic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and film critics around the world still say to this day it's the best Western ever made. So, I mean, I was just lucky to be part of it. I was only 26, I think, when I did the movie, so it was just really exciting to be a part of that.
Back in the days of education like that we have now.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the Grammys and Emmys, that would have been a thing that put you on the screen.
Yeah, well, that was, definitely it was a movie that everyone saw.
That's cool. Anybody else got a question?
Wonder Woman? I actually did Stephen J. Cannell was a guy who created Rockford Files and Wise Guy and 21 Jump Street, and during the 90s in Vancouver, he also created a few of, they were syndicated shows, So I did a syndicated show for him called Two, which was about a character who had a twin, and one of his twin was setting him up for crimes, and he was trying to figure out who was setting him up, so it was called Two. And the other one was this show called Hawkeye, which was based on The Last of the Mohicans in a way. And Linda Carter was the lead actress of the show. And so, I always used to joke around with her. I'd always throw rocks at her and see if that was, she was sweet. I think I did that TV show in '93 or so. Yeah, she was lovely. Just reminded me of it.
That's awesome. Rumor has it that you went to high school in San Bernardino?
I did, yeah.
Nice. That's where we're from.
Yeah. Oh, you
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't graduate from there, so I don't think I have a photo up in the school because I moved there to play junior hockey when I was in 12th grade, and and so what happened was I went back to, I grew up in 100 Mile House, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
went back to 100 Mile House in April, and I graduated in 100 Mile. But, yeah, I love Salmon Arm. I
Yeah.
lived there for 2 years.
Okay.
And so I went to that school that's just on the hill that
Yep.
goes up the
Yep.
hill there. Is it still there?
It's
Yeah.
still there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys go there?
Yeah.
Sure it is.
Yeah.
Now, if you've been there recently, because there's been a lot of developmental
Yeah,
changes.
no, I know,
and it's so different.
for instance, I do know that, because I went up there and I played hockey with some of the alumni of the team that I played with there. We did like a little tournament there about 5 years ago. I think you were pretty small. And I do know that the new hockey arena is sort of
Okay.
built up
Yep.
on the hill.
Yep.
And they have a new McDonald's on the side
Yep,
of it.
they
Because
do.
when I was there, I used to date the girl whose dad owned McDonald's.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But back then, it was right beside the water
Yes.
slides, right?
Yep.
Downtown, yeah, that one's gone.
That's
Okay.
that's now Remax.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, is that
yeah,
right?
right. I know.
Yeah. But I thought, man, what a place to have a McDonald's right beside a water slide on the Trans-Canada Highway.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder how his summer numbers were.
Oh,
Yeah.
huge. Yeah, I remember that as a kid. We would
Yeah.
go
Oh,
there
is that
so
right?
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Salmon. I think it's
We-
just a great little town. And they
Yeah.
still have their team there, right? They're
Yep,
called the
the
Silverbacks.
Silverbacks, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they were called the Totems when I played.
Oh, really?
Salmon.
Oh,
That's so funny.
Oh.
And it was so funny because our jerseys came from a team that had folded in Nanaimo. They were called the Nanaimo Clippers back then, and then
Okay.
BC Junior Hockey League.
Yeah.
And what was so funny is that we got our jerseys, and what they did is they took the Nanaimo Clipper crest off the jerseys, so you could still see the big outline
Where
of
the
the
patch
boat.
was.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
they put the totem over it, but you could still see the front of the boat
Oh,
and the back of the
hilarious.
boat a little bit. You know?
If you know to look for it.
Yeah, I just thought, man, you couldn't have just sprung for New Jersey.
No.
No.
Yeah. No.
That's what it was for.
Yeah. But when I played that year that I played in that league, Brett Hall was playing for the Penticton team.
Oh, okay.
And Cliff Ronning was playing for the team out of New Westminster. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, I used to play against a few of the guys that did well in the NHL. Yeah.
Nice.
So I want to know about like Night of the Roxbury. Like, how did you get that? Did you live in
It's a
LA
pretty
for a
cool
bit?
story, actually. So I did a movie for MTV. I did one of the very first ever MTV Paramount co-productions,
Oh, okay.
and it was called Dead Man on Campus.
Yeah, I know that one very
Okay,
well.
so-
Yeah.
So when I did that movie, Amy Heckerling, who directed Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Clueless, she was sort of Paramount's sort of young hot director then, and they asked her if she would just sort of oversee a little bit of what was going on with Dead Men on Campus,
Okay.
because it was kind of a newer, greener director. And so I just happened to have like a really fun role in Dead Man on Campus, and they really let me play with it. And it just sort of, I was just lucky that character just kind of shone in that movie because of just the energy of it.
Yeah.
It was just a fun character.
Yeah.
And so Amy Heckerling really liked my character from that movie. And so I was at home one day, and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, the phone rang, and she picked it up, and I could hear her, and she goes, yeah, just 1 second. And she held the phone like this, before cell phones.
Yeah.
And she goes, there's a woman named Amy Heckerling on the phone, and I kind of went, because I didn't know that she was part of Dead Man. I just went, Amy Heckerling, what?
Yeah.
And I got on the phone, I thought it was a joke, and then she has this Brooklyn accent. She goes, hi Lachlan, it's Amy Heckerling. And I was just like, what? And so she goes, listen, I've been watching the dailies from the movie, and she goes, your character to Dead Man on Campus is kind of what I feel Sean Penn was to Fast Times, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I thought, wow, what a compliment that was. And so she said, listen, I'm going to do this movie based on a sketch from Saturday Night Live with Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan, and I'd really like you to come to meet the guys because there's a really great role in there that I think you'd be. So I was in Vancouver at the time, so I flew down to LA, and I had a meeting with Will and Chris at Paramount, and then I ended up ended up being in the movie.
Awesome.
That's sort of how that happened.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was kind of nice. I really enjoyed doing the film. I like Chris as well, but I just remember how Will was just such a, and I think he still is.
I was gonna say, what is it like being on
Just
set
such a
with him?
great guy,
Yeah.
and very open to ideas, and loved it if you brought something that he felt was funny, whereas I felt kind of pissed sometimes if you did something that was improv and if the director and everyone thought it was funny, he kind of I almost felt like he was like a little pissed off at that, right?
Gotcha.
And I was like, dude, I'm not trying to compete with you, but I'm just trying to make
Off
it
the
better.
record, yeah.
But Will was the opposite. Will, if he did something funny,
Yeah.
he'd be like, do it again.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Do it again.
That's very cool.
But yeah, so that's kind of how that all
Neat.
happened. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
You want to know what we're
Have you, what other, events like this have you done? Like, this is my first Comic Con, right?
Okay.
And, I'm local, I grew up here. I've seen it advertised, I've just never come, right?
Happy.
And then I just decided this year I'm coming, right? And it's a blast. I love it, right?
All right, I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, Mike was really, I actually emailed Mike about some details that I couldn't find on the website. He was like, bang, he did right now, you know.
Mike's great.
Attend them, right? Cool. And, anyways.
We'll talk after.
I want to ask you,
So
I know there's these big ones. I watch Big Bang Theory, they talk about the
Yeah.
Comic Cons.
Yeah.
Have you done these big ones and are they like really cool? Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, I've done, so with Riverdale, because our show is quite big around the world, I've done a lot of Riverdale conventions over the last 3 years, and we've done them in Paris and Dublin and London and just all these places. We do a lot of them sort of Chicago, Dallas, New Jersey, New York area, those kind of areas. And there are a few horror conventions that I've done. I did a horror movie called Freddy vs. Jason. And so those conventions I find are the real big ones, the horror conventions. So I've done some of those in New Jersey where there's, between 15 and 30,000 people.
you see, horror seems to be a big thing here, and I don't do horror. I'm more of a tech IT geek with a minor in gaming and entertainment, right?
I get you.
That's me.
Yeah.
But I love gaming. I love the scene culture. I'm not into it. Like I said.
I know there's huge gaming conventions around.
Oh, huge.
North
I could
America.
hook you up.
Well,
with a couple of-
I'm not good at gaming because I just don't spend the time I need because I don't have the time.
It's fair.
I mean,
get
you
that.
have to make that a priority, right? And I just got too much going on in life. Though I love it, right now.
But I must say that for like a smaller city that Kelowna is and a smaller convention this is, I'm really the ratio of how many people came as cosplayers is really great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. I felt there were a lot of people that were just really committed to coming and participating and being, because the bigger conventions, of course, you get some pretty amazing outfits and but when you do those conventions in the States, they're not just people from New Jersey that come to these conventions. It's like people are like, yeah, we flew in from St. Louis, we flew in from
all over the world.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So for a smaller town like this, for everyone to participate as much as I've seen is really great.
Well, today, I just got here really quick. I jumped in and said hi to Crystal down there and come up here, and just from walking in and even here, I see today just seems to be a little more active in cosplay than yesterday. And I haven't even walked the floor yet, right?
Wow.
I don't know.
That's impressive, actually, considering the context was yesterday. I guess everyone was like, okay, we're just wearing all our costumes
Yeah,
today.
I don't know.
That could be it.
I mean, I follow cosplay. I really like cosplay, right? So
Fair
I
enough.
watch the YouTube and I get emails and stuff, and I really enjoy it. And I like to see some of the really big stuff, like
What's the
Marie.
biggest one you've seen?
What's her face? Marie. She's a French woman.
French woman. Sorry.
Marie.
Marie Antoinette?
No.
That's okay.
She's really pretty big. She's just totally professional, right?
Oh, she's a professional cosplayer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
I will have to say her name.
Marie.
Or something.
Yeah.
Mike knows her.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, did someone say?
I think it's Marie St. Claude.
No, it's very tall, huge woman.
Yeah.
blonde, but
She got the hooves on down there?
The what?
Did she have the hooves on down there? Just like, sorry.
I don't know. Anyways, sorry, I don't mean to. Anyways, I was just really interested in how you guys saw this compared to.
Yeah, I mean, it's just much, it's obviously a smaller scale,
Yeah,
but it's the same. I mean, the people that come to these conventions, they all have a common ground of what their passions and or their loves are as far as movies and or genres of things. And so no matter where you go in the world, if I'm going to go to a horror convention, everyone at that convention are people that are horror movie fans, right? So they walk, and that's why it's so interesting to see people interact, because there's no awkwardness because everyone has a common ground. They love horror movies. And so they're dressed as people like iconic Jason Voorhees characters, or they're dressed like Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger, or Wonder Woman, or whatever, you know. So that's the one thing. The first time that I ever did a convention was in Orlando, Florida, and it was called Spooky Empire, which is a pretty big convention. And I was a little trepidatious at first because I didn't know what it would be like to sit at a table and sign stuff for people. I wasn't sure. They just felt weird until I did it, and what I felt was, man, these people that are coming up to me love movies. They love film. They know way more about it than I do. I mean, I did Freddy versus Jason, and when I did the horror conventions, so many people would come up to me and tell me exactly which number of victim I was from Jason Voorhees, and I wouldn't even have thought of that. And they'd go like, "Do you know that you're 138?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Did you sign it number 138?
I think it was 138. It was just one of those things that people say to you that you just go, wow, man, like it's really interesting to me that people are that invested in something that they love that much.
Well, what I didn't realize until this weekend was I never would have imagined that I would actually get to meet people like yourself or Crystal ever in real life before this weekend, right? I see you on the TV and the movies. I see you guys, and it just never occurred to me that I could actually meet you in person and talk to you. And this is like a revelation. It's cool.
See, but that's interesting for me because I came from, a little town called 100 Mile House, and I just, was able to fall into a job like this. And so I always just considered again, getting back to sort of a bit of the jadedness of it, I just really, it's a job for me, and so for me, it's like, I don't think about it like that. But I do understand it, and I was explaining yesterday, I don't know if anyone was here, but what happens is that I end up on a television screen inside people's homes, which makes that experience a bit personal because I've been in their house. And so, but I'm there playing different characters, and I'm not me. So that when people meet me, like what you were just saying, people are like, I can't believe I'm talking to you now. And so I tend to forget that that's why. Whereas I just feel like and I am, but I just feel like I'm just meeting you guys, and I'm like interested in what you're saying, and so I don't think of you guys thinking of me like that.
But even if some of the people here today probably don't, this isn't such a revelation now because they've maybe been the bigger ones.
Sure, like they've already met people that have been on the.
For me.
So myself and Crystal are the first people you've ever met that have been on TV or movies?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, Clint Eastwood, man, I would go over the moon and meet him type of thing. Lots of people. I'm starting to think that it's actually possible. And you've got this Jeff Dunham thing going here. You guys profile, and did you ever meet him?
Clint Eastwood?
Jeff Dunham.
Oh no, I haven't.
You know the puppets? Ahmed, the dead terrorist?
Ahmed the dead terrorist.
No.
You've never heard of him?
He's a ventriloquist that sits there with a little Ahmed the dead terrorist on his arm. And
When you were saying all over the world,
yeah,
he's done Dubai and Ireland, and he's YouTube. You're doing the profile hair thing, kind of actually
What,
Really,
like
you
the
gotta-
puppet or him?
No, him.
Not a terrier.
Yeah, I'm sure, I'm sure if I saw it, because I do always find ventriloquism really interesting,
Well,
so I'm sure I've seen him.
He's the kind of guy that makes me gut split laugh.
Yeah,
And
he's
I
pretty
love
funny.
that, right?
Yeah.
But I'm surprised, I thought you would have, you just, I don't know, I just wanted to know if you met him, because you got this.
Does he look like him?
Definitely
Anyways.
should meet him now.
And by the way, if you ever go home to 100 Mile,
Mhm.
if you ever have cause, I'm really annoyed because I lost my dentist to 100 Mile.
Oh, really?
A dentist there, Dr. Orlo Powell.
Okay.
He's
Oh,
fantastic. He works how he does and rides a bike. And,
Well, my dad still lives up there, so we go up, we were just there about a week ago.
yeah, he, of 9 years, and he moved to 100 Mile. And went, party!
Well, there's money to be made in 100 Mile.
Is there?
Oh, that whole population.
Oh.
I was the only kid in grade 1 when I grew up.
Yeah. It's
I
tiny.
grew up, actually, I didn't really grow up in 100 Mile House. I grew up on Lacklahash Lake.
Oh, yeah.
If anyone knows where that is. So I went to a little elementary school in Lacklahash, and I was the only kid in grade 1.
It's like one-on-one teaching.
Yeah, right? That's
What's
like
that?
fun.
One-on-one
Yeah, well,
teaching.
okay, so I was the only kid in grade 1, but one teacher taught, that there was a 2-room school. One
Oh.
teacher taught grades 1 to 4 in one room, and another teacher taught grades 5, 6, and 7 in the other room. And I just took my son,
Yeah,
and
that's
he
pretty
saw
cool.
it.
That is
That's a
awesome.
pretty old technique where they teach
Yeah.
classes.
Yeah.
Like Laura Ingold Wilder
Yeah.
technique.
Yeah, and it's now a volunteer fire department.
Didn't check.
So it's just a 2-room school, and so I actually drove my son by it about a week ago or so. He had a good chuckle.
Do you have any big, like, movies in the works?
Do I, what, sorry?
Any
Oh.
big movies in the works coming up?
Well, in between Riverdale, I've done a couple of really interesting smaller films that have been doing a little bit of the circuits in the UK and stuff right now that are smaller but interesting.
Yeah.
And I did an arc on the TV series COT.
Okay.
And then there's a few things that I've met on over the last month that we'll start to shoot in Vancouver, so I'm hoping they come to fruition because they're pretty interesting. But Riverdale's been kind of keeping me busy.
Yeah.
over the last-
Have you found how, like, it's progressed? Are you shooting more in Canada compared to when you started in LA? Like, have you felt the shift in the film industry?
Yeah, there's so much more stuff in
Here.
Vancouver for sure.
Yeah.
And I think what's happened, especially over this next little explosion starting in September in Vancouver, is that one, the Canadian dollar, whenever the Canadian dollar is really weak, it just, that attracts you. I always
Yeah.
tell people in Vancouver, I said, they don't come here because of those mountains and that ocean.
Right.
Yeah, that's a nice setting,
Mhm.
but it's all about the dollar, it's a business. And what happened right now is sort of the backlash about shooting in Georgia. I don't know if you've
Oh.
read in papers about
Yeah.
sort of the state of Georgia and
Yeah.
sort of their political beliefs have been driving Hollywood away a little bit. And so all of the stuff that was sort of destined for there because Georgia was giving big tax incentives has now sort of been coming up into Vancouver. And again, Canada, not only do they give good tax incentives for product to shoot here, the Canadian dollar is low and the labor is much cheaper.
Right.
Like a camera operator in Vancouver makes about a third of what an operator would make in LA.
Wow.
So right across the board, they save a lot of money here. Not only the dollar, like for instance, $1 million budget, you come to Vancouver, put your money in the bank, you now have $1.3 million. So that's a really big difference, that extra $300,000 to spend on cheaper labor
Yeah.
and tax incentives.
Are you working more union productions?
Oh,
or
I have
non-union?
to. I
You
can't-
are union.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't do.
Yeah.
I can't do non-union. Yeah, so I belong to Screen Actors Guild
Yeah.
in LA. I belong to it's like ACTRA in
Yeah,
Canada
yeah, I know, I've
and
heard
or
of that.
UBCP,
Yeah.
kind of the same.
Mhm.
So yeah, they would probably frown upon me
That's
doing
fair.
non-union stuff.
Yeah.
Though listen, I love to help out.
Yeah.
I love to help out small filmmakers too, but I have a line I can't cross.
Yeah, totally. My uncle used to own all the honey wagons in Alberta, and he's actually working on a new Ghostbuster film as we speak. And
So
he's
is that where they're gonna shoot it?
Yeah, they're shooting it in Calgary. Yeah, it's been an interesting story with that car, but Yeah.
Have they started shooting?
They
it?
started shooting it.
Oh,
Yeah, they did start shooting it. Yeah.
They've kind of kept that quiet.
Yeah, they have been. And
Unless
they
it, a lot of times they shoot it under different names though.
True.
Like when I did the Predator movie, it was
Yeah.
called Ollie.
Oh, okay.
Ollie, because the director Shane Black has a dog named Ollie, so
Oh,
they
funny.
just started calling the movie Ollie so that
No,
they could
trust it.
sort of keep it a little
Yeah.
bit under wraps.
Yeah. Well,
So
my uncle's
all my
that
call
user.
sheets, like I know I did a few days on it, but my call sheets, my scripts always said Ollie on it.
Oh, hilarious. That's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, he used to work, and then I was talking to him the other day, and he's like, no, they pulled from the union. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
That might be an Alberta thing. I don't
Could
really
be.
know.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm surprised that a movie of that magnitude
Yeah.
would be non-union.
Would be
like-
not, that's what I thought too, but yeah. it just
Especially
isn't.
because your uncle sounds, he's more like Teamsters, right?
Yeah, he's a
So,
Teamster. Yeah, he would be a Teamster,
non-union meaning sort of, did they pull from
Teamsters could be.
Teamsters
Yeah, I'd
and are
have to ask
using
him that.
IATSE?
I'll have to ask him that. It was just a brief
Because
comment.
I'm, like, it sounds, like, I just, for one, and the reason I say this
Yeah.
is the Teamster Union in general is so strong that if they found out a movie like Ghostbusters was
Yeah.
trying to go non-union with the transportation,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
honestly, there would be
Probably.
a few Teamsters on set,
That
sort of
makes
walking the way of that set.
That
you know.
makes
I've seen that in Louisiana where they've sent New York Teamsters to shut movies down to say, hey,
Wow.
listen, this isn't how this operates.
Interesting. Well, that just stays in here then.
Your uncle gets it.
Yeah.
What happened in Kelowna? I'm out of a job.
Small world, don't you
Yeah,
think?
No, I'm sure that there's a reasonable explanation.
Yeah, I'm sure that there is, but yeah.
Anyone else? I have lots of really great answers.
I have a question,
Yeah.
since you recently did Riverdale.
Mhm.
So, without trying to give any spoilers, did you know well ahead of time what was gonna happen with
I never.
No, so you didn't
I
realize like
had
the...
no idea I was the Black Hood. I found out I was the Black Hood when I read the script where I showed the Cooper home movie. So I had to go 3 days between going from Hal Cooper to the Black Hood.
Like the nice guy to the...
Yeah, I had no idea. To tell you the truth, I think the Black Hood was always supposed to be Sheriff Keller. And for some reason, right around the Carrie musical episode, do you watch the show?
Yeah.
So the Carrie musical episode in season 2, somewhere right around there is when it changed. Because I look at that particular script because it was right after that script that all of a sudden Betty was really honing in on me about being the Black Hood. And because I look at that script of the Carrie musical and when Midge was hung on the wall and the Black Hood was back, well, I was sitting in the audience of that episode and I came late because I brought Alice. It was kind of like Alice and I were kind of trying to make up. If you remember when FP walked in and saw that I was talking to Alice and he threw his letter in the thing and he walked out. So it all changed right about there, and I noticed that all the scripts were, everyone was honing in on me. And then I started to think, well, it's too obvious that I would be the Black Hood because they have to have kind of a twist. And then, so when I became, so then when I showed the whole movie is when I found out. And I never ever wore the hood, like people would always, when they were trying to guess who the Black Hood was, people would always post videos of the Black Hood and then my photo and they go, I always knew it was Hal Cooper. And I'm like, that's not me. The eyes are totally different, everything, And Archie was always making reference about how the Black Hood had green eyes, right? And I was always like, well, how did the writers figure out a way to like just pull the wool over the audience's eyes, Because that's one thing I never could figure out, because to me it's like Archie grew up right beside me with Betty his whole life. I'm sure even with the hood on, he would have been able to tell that was me that tried to kill Fred Ash.
Especially if he was traumatized, right? Because the eyes, he really focused on that.
Yes, he was very focused on the green eyes, right? Remember how it was just such a big thing with him? I'll never forget those green eyes. Well, again, Martin, who plays Sheriff Keller, is the only one in the cast who has green eyes, too, right? So, I didn't want to become that character. I think it's an interesting character, so, I was able to find interesting ways of playing him in season 3, sort of setting up the Clarice Starling and kind of a Lecter relationship that Betty and I had. Much more interesting than just playing Hal Cooper, I felt. But I knew that it was going to diminish sort of my screen time because I'm locked away in a cell, so the only person that ever came to visit me was Betty. Then when I found out that I was going to escape, honestly, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be great. Like, maybe I'm going to escape, and I'm going to save Alice and Betty from the Gargoyle King or something, and I'm going to be able to redeem myself, you know? Because really, I thought to myself, how else am I coming back on this show? Or how am I getting out of prison? It wasn't like I had a misdemeanor traffic ticket, right? I mean, I killed a lot of people. So how am I getting out? You know, how am I getting off on a technicality? Or, you know? So I figured maybe if I came out and really redeemed myself, then maybe I would, you know, it is the comic book world. So then when the final episode happened in the forest, no one since that episode, as far as the showrunners, producers, writers, has ever phoned me to say, hey, thanks a lot for being on the show. No, my point being.
Oh, as in you're still there.
Yeah, my point being is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's rude.
So if you think, yeah, that's right. So I take it as, if you saw the very last episode, all you ever saw was Penelope point a gun at me. Then you cut to Betty hearing a gunshot, her reaction, then the gargoyles chase them out of the forest, and that's all you ever saw. So really, especially in the comic book world, unless you've seen a dead body, I don't know, is there a dead body? So now my roles, my participation in the show thus far, in the episodes that I've been in, have all been flashbacks. So I'm about to film a little flashback episode with Betty when she's a little girl, and just sort of things that that she's thinking about in her life that sort of she's trying to figure out why she has this darkness to her. And so thus far, that's my participation in the shows, and I'm in all these flashback things. And so, you know, I'm hoping, you know, getting back to the Carrie musical episode, I apologize for rambling on about Riverdale if you've never seen it, but I always looked at little Easter eggs, and if you remember in that particular episode when I came home to try and make up to Alice, and I had the flowers, and she goes, oh, well, that's nice, Hal, but I'm allergic to peonies, but how would you know that? We've only been married for 20 years. Well, when I read that, I was like, am I really Hal Cooper? So I know that there's Blossom Blood and there's twins. Like, is that not Hal? So there was a lot of little things like that, and and I don't want to totally give the spoiler away, but in the very first episode this season, Betty's talking to Jughead about a couple of instances, you know, about her father, and Cole's character says to her, "Yeah, it's almost like your dad were two different people." So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do.
It's neat when you don't know. Because it's like you're literally playing out
None
the
of the
story.
cast knows. The writers and the showrunner Roberto keep everything fully to them, and we learn what's going to happen. We do read-throughs about 2 days before the new episode starts. So let's say we're doing episode 9, and at lunch hour 2 days before episode 10 starts, we will read episode 10 as a cast at a table read. So that's how I found out that I was the Black Hood at that table read.
Did you have like a reaction to it, or you just kind of pretend?
Yeah. Honestly, again, I didn't want to be that guy. I always envisioned Hal Cooper as being. I always wanted to be that my character in season 1. I had a nice big scene with Betty while I was fixing my car, and she came home from a date, and so she helped me kind of work on the car, and then she asked me questions about Polly. So that's the relationship I always wanted. I always wanted to kind of have this relationship, Betty, where she was kind of tomboyish, and she always, you know, helped me fix things around the house. And, you know, I wanted to be that guy. I didn't want to be, that's actually funny because I didn't even tell my kids that I was the Black Hood. I wanted them to see it. And I was a little weird because I thought maybe they'd be like, you're the Black Hood. And my son Hudson, after that episode aired, he came back. He goes, hey, guess what, Dad? He goes, everyone at school gives me so much more respect now.
Yeah, now that's how you take it.
So I thought they were gonna be all freaked out over it there, but they actually all kind of thought it was cool. But again, what I felt for me was that it was a big turn in a character, so I didn't really know if they were gonna kill me, or like I said, ending up in prison just kind of took me away from the town, because I really enjoy working with Machen and Skeet and everyone, you know, when we have the big scenes where we're all in the town halls and stuff like that, or if we're having a big meeting at someone's house. I used to love that because I got to see everyone, because I predominantly throughout the show really only worked with Machen and Lily, you know, the Cooper sort of family dynamic. So whenever I get to work with the other characters is always fun for me. So third season, man, I was right, fully segregated just to me and Lily. That was it. Until the very final episode when I worked with the kids, when we had the big dinner at the Philippines cottage there, or whatever. Silly stuff. Sorry to ramble.
That's good stuff.
What else? What else? How we doing?
It's actually 2:59, so.
1 minute.
We've got one more question. One more question, anybody? All right, well, I'm gonna ask a question then.
Okay.
What's the favorite, what's the best con you've been to? What's the one that you're just like, yeah, this is it?
There a big one in Australia that we went to. They call them, instead of supernovas, they call them supanovas.
Supernova.
Supa. So those were really interesting and big. You know, the San Diego Comic-Cons are just kind of, I feel the San Diego Comic-Con has become sort of what the reason for the Toronto Film Festival used to be. To me, it's like if you're flogging a movie with Bruce Willis in it, then it's not a film festival anymore, you know? And sort of what Sundance used to be. Now Sundance is just this place where, you know, Levi's goes and rents a cottage and gives out pants to stars and stuff, right? So I feel the San Diego Comic-Con has like lost that because now huge studios just go there to promote movies, right?
Instead of being personal.
You know, it's just lost the intimacy. That one in particular, though it's still really big, but you know, sometimes when things get that big, you lose the intimacy of it. I think a lot of the ones on the East Coast, like the one called Chiller in New Jersey, is really cool. You know, it's just the right amount. It's not too big, but enough that it attracts a lot of interesting people, whether it be celebrities from movies or whatever. But
That's cool.
Well,
yeah.
Would you say that the biggest Comic Con is in the LA area, Hollywood, or wherever it's held, like LA?
No, it's San Diego. So,
Is it?
yeah, San Diego Comic-Con.
So when the guys on Big Bang Theory would talk about Comic Con, do you think they were talking about San Diego?
Maybe, yeah. You know, to tell you the truth, there's not a lot of big conventions in LA. They don't do them in LA. So.
Okay.
Which is weird to me because really, you know, the accessibility to have, you know, if you wanted celebrities to be there, that would be really easy, because I find that there's not a lot of them on the West Coast. They're usually predominantly on the East Coast and or in Europe.
More commonplace in the LA area, so it's, you know, everyone sees everyone all the time.
Yeah,
It's not something they literally go out of their way to.
Yeah, they may think that LA people are just too sort of like, yeah, I see that guy in my yogurt shop.
Yeah.
Is this the smallest?
I mean, that could be a bit of that element of it. You know?
Is this the
I think
smallest
that
one that you've
the
been
thing
in?
about the East Coast, which is interesting, is that when you like East Coast cities are so condensed, you know, like whether they be Philly, Boston, New York, New Jersey, and they're also so close to each other, right? So when you have a big convention in New Jersey, it's only 2 hours to Philadelphia, right? So there's just huge city centers all in that geographic location, and so exactly right. Yeah, that's why they don't. Even though they do have a few, like they have a couple big ones in Seattle. One's called the Oz Comic Con or the Emerald City Comic Con or something like that, right? And they're pretty big. Is it Emerald? Yeah. They're pretty big, but nothing like sort of the bigger ones that I've seen in like Orlando and or Indianapolis has a big one, and Chiller in New Jersey's a big one. Yeah. But I think again a lot of it is just the geographic location. But they're just big enough to still feel like it's still cool. I just you know, the San Diego Comic-Con feels to me like the Walmart of Comic-Con in a sense.
Fair enough.
Not that I don't like Walmart or not slagging Walmart. You know who used to be the CEO of Walmart? Hillary Clinton.
Really?
Yeah.
Walmart.
Holy crow.
Actually, it is part of the set.
There you go. Little trivia for you.
Well then, thank you for that.
Yes.
So quick, choose one
I was
more.
just wondering if this is the smallest one you've been to on
Yeah.
Income.
Probably.
So we're pretty,
Did it.
we're pretty
We're not
lucky.
smallest.
You know?
Okay.
It's only
But
the
again,
third year.
Yes.
But again, like
Yes.
honestly, like they're really, I mean, great vendors and stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, really, everything here is what you see at the bigger ones, just on a smaller scale. Like all still the great vendors out there with lots of cool merchandise, which you see in all of them. There's just more. You know, great costumes, which you see here, but at the bigger ones, there's just more. And maybe sometimes there's maybe a little more elaboration on what has been built as far as costumes, but only because the population size.
Yeah.
That's all. But the same enthusiasm and
Yeah,
passion.
well, every year it's been getting more
Yeah,
and
that's
more.
what I heard.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot more, what do you cosplay characters than there was last year.
Yeah, actually, to wrap this up here, we're doing a creating cosplay communities panel down on the lower panel at 3:30. So if anybody wants to join us down there for that, we'll talk about cosplay stuff and down there. But if anyone has got any other questions for this guy, he'll be down at the table down there. Do you have any parting words for these lovelies?
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for the great questions. I know I'm a bit of a rambler, but I like to tell stories.
I love to listen to stories.
That's what everyone wants to do anyways, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. All right, well.
Thank you, young man, for attending.
Yes, thank you. Sorry for you, of course.
Now, come on, we gotta go home. There's some lawn for you to cut. All right, thanks so much, everyone.
Intimate affair. So yeah, this is actually Lane's first Q&A panel, and actually this is the first Comic-Con you've ever attended as a guest, right? Like not this year, but this specific
Yes,
show.
for sure. Yeah, so it's definitely a different.
I feel very lucky to be the ones to have you for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I appreciate
and
it.
I'm so happy you came back for a second year,
thanks.
and maybe a third year next year,
Yeah.
and keep coming back every year. That'd be great. Okay.
We'll work on it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we all know you as Patty Farrell.
Yes.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking to your mom about that picture where you've got him pinned and your pigtails are up.
Yeah.
That's CGI, isn't it?
The hair is. Everything else is not.
Yeah, you really tackled it. But there's a story from that day, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah, you tell the story.
So, I'm 100% keener. I love to just go for it 100%. And I was about 13, and Greg, Zachary Gordon, who plays the lead, he's 11. He's like 4'6", like so small. And they wanted it to be like this big tackle. And I'm an athlete, so I was like, okay, yeah. And I was practicing and everything. And then on the day, I started, it's gross, but I started like throwing up. And I'm wondering what's going on. So they thought I had the flu, and the doctor came in. I had a concussion. I don't even know where it came from. But I think I must have been roughhousing a week or two before. But so I had this concussion, and the stunt guy was like, "Lane, I'm so sorry. We can't let you do this. You can't." I did everything but the running and jumping at him. I was gonna like up and dive. I was like planning it out. I was so excited.
Full on tackle.
Oh yeah. So they got this extra on the day who looked kind of like me.
Yeah.
And they gave her some hair extensions so that she was my stunt double. Very, very last minute. She did a great job. But I was really bummed because I watched her do it and I was like, I could have done better. I was like, I could have done so much more with that. I was like, I was so prepared. But yeah, it came out really, really well. And
Yeah.
that was a good.
Yeah, so the hair sticking out, that was
props. Props had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, they had a lot of fun with that.
They had newspapers. They're handing out the newspapers to everybody. And just,
that's
the
cool.
crew they're such a good crew.
Yeah, so you were 13 when you made that movie.
The first one, yeah, 13.
Was that your first movie role ever?
I did. There's this one straight-to-TV and DVD movie I did with George Lopez called
Okay.
Mr. Troop Mom, and that was my absolutely very first experience.
And was that filmed in Vancouver? Or?
That was filmed near Vancouver. It was near Port Mooney, Port Coquitlam. So I was pretty close to home.
How old were you then?
I was 11.
So how did you get into that at 11 years old?
I
Did you go to your mom and be like, Mom, I want to be an actress. I want to work with George Lopez.
No. So my mom, way back when, was an actor, and she was really, really good. But then she had kids, and so, you know, Yes, it is. Yes. And then, you know, we did, my brother and I are both actors. We both did school plays, and, you know, we were those kids that would stand really close to the microphone and, like, grab it in front of people at school plays. So then my mom thought, oh, well, maybe we should try it. So she kind of put it to us like, oh, well, you know, it's like skating or hockey. It's like another activity. Do you guys want to try it? So I said, okay. And, you know, we took some courses and for film and TV and got an agent pretty quick, which was very lucky. Because we were really bad. You know, starting out, right? You don't know what you're doing. And so about a good year of auditioning, just kind of getting comfortable with it. And you know what? Like, that's your job, even at 10 or 11, is just auditioning. So
Yeah. You know, it's funny, every actor we've had up here on stage has said the same thing. It's your job.
It's
your job. You know, they've said it's no different than working at Starbucks or working in a taco truck, or they've all had jobs, and they say this is another job. It just happens to be that they're the lucky 1% that makes a go at it and a living at it. So.
And it's really lucky, and you can get jobs because you look a bit more like somebody that, you know, resembles the character they were thinking of, or you change their minds, and, you know, and that's how I got Patty Farrell, is they changed their mind. They wanted, what was it originally? They wanted someone taller and a bit beefier looking, and almost like she had a unibrow, like a really, like a Helga Olga kind of character, and then I went in for it. I was like teeny tiny, like,
so they wanted somebody that was small but fiery. Yeah, a little spark plug.
Yeah, and aggressive.
And aggressive.
She's
so
a
you're
good
saying
character.
you're aggressive.
I'm very aggressive.
We got that recorded that, right? Okay, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, she's a fighter.
Yes.
Don't mess with her.
Yeah.
So, what did you do after Diary of a Wimpy?
Diary of a Wimpy Kid, you know, in Vancouver there's so many things filming.
Yeah.
So, especially at that time, there's a show called Haunting Hour.
Yeah.
So what was beautiful about that is, especially if you were a Vancouver acting kid, you could book an episode one season, and then however many months later, next season comes around, you can be on the show again, because it's different characters every episode, and they don't mind reusing. So if they like you, they bring you back.
Supernatural is known for that. They'll use certain people 3 times, different characters, and they think we don't notice.
No, we do. But it's like, okay, here's the thing. I have a beef with Supernatural a little bit.
Oh.
I have wanted, my brother's been on it. I have wanted to get on that show. It's like one of my bucket list shows since I was literally 11 years old. It's been on for so long.
Yep.
I'm 23. I still haven't, I've tried. Yeah. Like, I've gotten close for some, I had braces for a while, and they're like, oh, can you take your braces off? And I was like, you know, I can't. You know, but no, I tried out forever. I've tried out for demons, ghosts, witches, like random civilians, like everything. I can't get on that show. I'm trying so much. I know. It's my friends, all my friends have. Dude.
I
should
know
talk to
absolutely
Ghostfacer.
nobody. Yeah. Actually, no, I guess I know Travis now.
You know Travis.
Yeah, I know a
Talk to
Ghostfacer,
Travis.
yeah.
No, but that was like one of my things. Like, I was like, gotta get on Supernatural.
This
Because I
is your
love the
last
show.
year to get on there.
It's
the last season. You gotta start calling them and be like, hey, you know what, you just go down to the filming, wherever they're located.
They're
just
everywhere.
walk on.
They filmed
Just
my
walk
house.
on, just walk across this, you know.
With my resume, my headshot.
No, when the director says action, just sort of just wander onto the set. That's what I would do.
That's a good job.
Yeah, I would do that.
Can't wait to see you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, before that, George Lopez, did you do like commercials or anything like that?
I did a couple. My very first paid job was an accident because we auditioned. My brother and I auditioned for this commercial for Yogos. It's like those little yogurt Fruit Loopy things, and kids, they only work a certain number of hours a day with the law. So the kids booked it. They went overtime and they couldn't work anymore. And it was around 12 o'clock at night, and they needed just a couple more shots of hands. So they went back to the list. They're like, okay, well, these guys were second choice. Maybe we can use, okay, we'll call them. So we got called in the middle of the night. We're like 10 and 12, my brother, and they're like, hey, if you come down right now, we'll pay you to do these hand shots. So it was like midnight. It was a really teeny tiny warehouse, and they would put Yogos in our hand and like film it. And so we were hand models. That was our very first.
After midnight,
yeah,
you get a call to come down to a warehouse.
Yep.
And
Both my
this
parents
didn't
came.
seem suspicious at all to anyone. That seems legit. Let's go.
Yeah,
And you just want to take pictures of my hands?
Just my hands.
All right.
Film it?
Yeah, that seems about right.
Totally. We'll pay this much money, and like that. I bought a Nintendo DS with that.
That's exactly why I picture every child.
Yeah,
actor,
my mom
so-
was like, "It's your first job. We're gonna let you can have all of it."
Yeah.
And it was only enough to buy a Nintendo DS, but we're gonna buy a Nintendo DS. So we
Nice.
did.
Very cool.
That was
Did
our.
you still have that DS? No.
So I broke it so bad, like 5 years in.
Have you done any commercials where you have to deal with food, like cereal or anything?
No.
No.
But my brother has.
Yeah, because we were talking to someone else, and he was saying that they have a spit bucket. You know, you
I've
eat
seen
and
that.
spit. You eat and you spit.
I've
And he's
been
like,
lucky.
one of the products that he got to do was cinnamon toast crunch. And he loves cinnamon toast crunch,
Oh,
so he's like,
no.
nom nom nom, and he kept eating it and eating it and eating it over
And they
over.
feed you too.
Yeah,
It's
you're like, stop eating it, spit. He's like, nah, man, I love this stuff.
You know, on Wimpy Kid, I can't remember which one it was, but Zach had to, the lead had to, he was eating corn dogs.
Mhm.
And he was such a sweet little boy, but his mom's like kind of, you know, sheltered, you know, so he'd never had a corn dog before. And Props was like, "You've never had corn dogs before? Oh man, you're gonna love it." So we, you know, the first scene, he takes a bite and he's like, "Oh, this is amazing." And they're like, "Now spit it out." And he goes, No, good, same thing.
Yeah.
But then after a couple, then he starts asking for the spit bucket, and there's just, you know what, I think there's an issue with sound or
Mhm.
something, so like it just kept keep going, and like it was like disgusting, because it just was like all this like chewed up corn dog in this massive bucket, and Props has to like deal with it, and like
Oh my
I couldn't
God.
do it. I was really grossed out.
I'm just trying to picture what they do with a bucket full of corn dog spit.
And then
at
I
the end of a
just tons
shoot.
and tons, and he's not like, you know, that he's like 11, so he's not
Yeah.
gonna spit it nicely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, he was a good sport.
You were on Falling Skies.
It was.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Tell me how you got that role.
The character was, there wasn't a lot for the description. You usually get a pretty good description of what you're auditioning for. This one was very vague. So I knew that it was a post-apocalyptic show. So I did very little.
So you didn't know it was Falling Skies.
I knew it was Falling Skies,
Oh.
but I had no idea what they wanted.
Oh, okay.
Right, or what they were going for. It was very, and the lines are very vague when you read them on a paper. You kind of have a lot to come up with yourself. So to make the character interesting and to make it a real person. So that's a lot of what auditioning is. You have to kind of make it up as you go and hope that your interpretation is the right one,
Right.
or that they can see that you have, you know, the chops.
The chops.
The chops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I figured it's post-apocalyptic. It's like you're homeless, and this character is with her mother, and she's, you know, like they're on a bike and they're scavenging for food. So I figured in the audition, I went super. I don't normally use props, but I had a big cup, and I was like eating, because the character's eating out of a pan. So I was really messy with my fingers and just saying my lines, and I just was very grounded through the cup behind me, and just was very, you know, almost like animalistic, just like survival mode.
Feral.
Yeah, feral. Great
Yeah,
word. Yes.
yeah.
So I was very feral. So I
Boom.
thought it.
You
Yeah.
nailed it.
Then I got it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
So let me tell, like, for someone like me who's not in the acting thing, so you audition for a role like that, you do that. How long does it usually take for you to find out? Like, how long are you sitting on pins and needles?
I think the longest, you know, usually it's like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And you don't find out if you don't get it. You just, you know, when you don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. After a certain number of weeks.
It's 2019. You're like, yeah.
Pretty much.
I've been
Yeah.
back from like 11 years.
And it's never anything personal, but you're just like, especially if it's a role you really like, and you just kind of go, man.
Yeah.
But no, you find out the week, maybe
Yeah.
half a week if it's like short, very close to filming. But I think the longest I've ever waited was, oh my God, like a month and a half.
Have you ever like been called and said, yeah, you got the role, and totally forgotten that you auditioned? For
Yeah,
it?
once I totally forgot.
You totally forgot you
Yeah.
auditioned for it.
It was a really short process too, because normally you go in the room, and then if they like you, they call you back, and then the directors and producers are there. So it's like a lot of back and forth. Maybe there's more second callback stuff like that. But that one, Horns, I went in. It's just the casting director. They taped me, and a month and a half later, they're like, "Oh yeah, you got it." And I was like, "What's Horns?" I had to look back.
I got what?
I don't even know what. I didn't remember. It's just so long. I just, you know, dropped it, forgot it, went on, and no, I booked it.
Is there any roles that you auditioned for that you didn't get that you really like? That was this is the role I wanted.
Yeah, there was one. I was really close. I was down in LA doing pilot season, and that's where all the pilots are being made. So especially Canadians go down to LA and they audition like crazy for everything. And I got this one. It didn't go, so I'm not that like.
Oh, it didn't happen.
I'm not that
They
mad
did a
about it.
Was it a show?
It was a show.
So
Yeah.
they did a pilot.
They did the pilot with somebody else and it didn't go. So I was like, I'm not
You know
that.
why it didn't go? You didn't get it. That's right.
Thanks. I'm just gonna call you when I don't book something.
Yeah.
But,
They did what? Yeah.
Just confidence based.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it was really cool. She was this part of like a televangelical family, so like super religious, but she was a transgender boy.
Okay.
So I had to cut my hair and stuff, and
Really?
just had this really cool character and like cool arc, and I really connected with it. I had an awesome time. I went all the way to network and went to the studios. We did screen tests, and it was between me and another person, and they got it because they were taller.
Just because they were taller?
Yeah.
A lot taller? Or
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was twins. So a lot of the times you can even not book something because you don't look like somebody else.
Right. Yeah.
So and that's fine. At least it's not too bad.
Has there ever been a role that you turned down and you're like, either thank God I turned that down or why did I turn that down? I'm such
Okay, there was one, but I must have been like 15, so still little. And like it was the Skin show from the UK, Skins. Yeah. So they were thinking way back when they were thinking of doing that for the States.
Yeah.
So they were hiring, and I was auditioning for the role of Effie, so the younger sister, who's like much younger. Like she gets a big role later on in the UK version, but Skins. It's super raunchy, it's super European, and everybody's making out, having sex, and all doing all this stuff. And I never done any of that, especially on camera.
Yeah.
And that's very scary, even as an adult.
Yes.
So my mom and myself, I talked about it. I never really turned anything down before, and I was like, I mean, I think I can, but like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That had to be a hard decision.
No, it's
Well, not a hard decision, but like, I would say an easy decision, but like.
You still
like,
feel.
I can't, how did I like get this offer? Like, it's just kind of.
It's and you have to make those decisions, especially when you're younger,
Yes.
because the people will just ask you, and you have to be able to say, well, I'm not comfortable with that, and it's not anything. You're not doing anything wrong, and it's totally fine. Like it's not like you're never gonna work again.
Yeah.
You're just not gonna work with that sort of material. You're gonna do something else, and just take it easy. So now I know. Like I'm glad I didn't, because I think my biggest nightmare would be taking something that I'm like kind of comfortable with, but not 100%, and then totally freezing up on the day on set in front of everybody, and because that's not professional,
Yeah, and that might lead down the road. Too,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions?
No.
No.
It's all good.
If you,
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's kind of irrelevant, but the painting you made.
Yes.
It was going up for bidding, right?
Yeah.
Did it already?
No, I wanted to keep it, but I mean, because I painted a picture. I have a cat. That's mine now. I foster cats, and she was one of my foster fails. So I kept her. Her name's Molly. So I attempted to paint her.
But you could give it up.
I could. I mean, yeah.
Yes, you could.
I could, but I just was like, oh, it's really cute. But like, what? You want to call it your own?
I wanted to know how much it would cost.
Not a clue. Actually, you know what? I remember I went to, Jai Wicked 3 was out in theaters, and my family really wanted to go as a family, like all of my aunts and uncles, like, this last one, let's go together, and it's like, I'm very shy. I'm very uncomfortable right now. So I was like, okay, fine. So we went, and then people started recognizing me after the movie, so they were very nice, and I was taking pictures and stuff, and I had a pop. And I went back to get my pop, and it wasn't there anymore. And I was like, oh, maybe the cleaning crew got it? Whatever. And I go home, and a couple days later on my Google alerts, because I get emails whenever my name is mentioned, and someone had my pop, and they put it on eBay. Yeah, like the exact same color. And there's even like a smudge of lipstick on the thing, which was my shade, and it was like, so that sold for $5. So I think mine would have been a good $3. My painting. Just guessing, right? So I think
that's a great story. Someone swiped your pop to sell it on eBay.
Yeah.
That is really.
I felt pretty good.
Did you buy it, Linda?
Oh, no. I wish.
What were you? Were you 14?
I was 16 when that came out.
Oh, because the movie
Yeah, I was
comes
16.
out a year after you. filmed
Yeah,
it.
so I was super uncomfortable.
Oh, that's weird.
Weird people, man.
Yeah, it's totally weird.
But it's all very flattering, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just calm. What do you do with that?
I know. Yeah.
No.
So,
thanks.
Diary, how many movies did they make?
That was 3, so I was very lucky and did that once every summer for 3 years in a row.
Did you take anything from the set for yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Without
Yeah.
incriminating yourself.
No. I paid for some of it. Well, none of her wardrobe. Sorry. And like, none. No,
You
she.
didn't keep the wrestling scene?
Hell no.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Not to be a negative person, but it just was like, it was, okay, filming that was like, so just imagine a bunch of 13 and 14-year-old extras, so boys.
Yeah.
And they're all wearing wrestling, what are they called, unitards?
Unitards,
Yeah, so, and they're not comfortable with themselves, and it's boys of all shapes and sizes, and there's all these guys with cameras, and they're like expected to sit there, lightings on top of them, so like, things are like...
And
like
you're the only girl there.
I was the only girl there, so I was
Yeah.
very uncomfortable too.
Yeah.
And like, but like you can tell, like some people were like, kind of like, hands were up here.
Yeah.
Cause it's like, you know, like, they were like that for hours. And like, I was very lucky and I had a little robe, but so they made me a female one. But yeah, it was just, everyone was just standing in matching unitards, and like, everyone's just looking at eyes and didn't want to look down.
Yeah.
It was just like,
I can imagine
so
at 14 being like.
it was the greatest, like,
I'm
looking,
43 and I don't want to walk around in unitard.
it was awful. Like, I mean, I'm sure the crew
I
members
mean,
loved it.
I'm 23. And I don't
Yeah,
wanna walk around.
exactly, we're same age.
Oh, we're the same.
Yeah, 23.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go. No, yeah, so.
So what did you take from the set?
Oh yeah, well, I wouldn't take that. But I took, we got a lot of the lawn furniture from
Okay,
the
yeah.
third one because they did country club scenes, and I was like, really good umbrellas, and like, so
Yeah.
we got a lot of that. And in the third one, they get a dog, and the dog's name is Sweetie. But the teenage son goes to get the bowl with the name on it, and comes back and says Sweaty, because he can't spell. So we kept that bowl for my dog, Shane.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah.
That's a cool.
It's a pretty, it's all bright red, and it's,
Yeah.
you know, it's a good bowl. It's very good.
How about from Falling Skies? Anything make it off the set there?
You know what? I don't know if I kept it, but they might still have it. I had braces,
Yes.
and I filmed it really far apart, so I had my braces taken off in between. So for continuity, they made me fake braces.
Okay, good.
Because there's a lot of like gunk and stuff, and they see me with my teeth out. So there's actually online my fake braces from Falling Skies, Lane McNeil.
Somebody has those.
Somebody has those too.
For sale somewhere.
Yeah.
Does
How
that-
did they get a hold of those?
I don't. It's so creepy. It's so creepy.
You put them down one day and
Like they're really not useful. They smell. They're ugly. They're super pointy. Like.
I just couldn't imagine what that would feel like seeing something that I owned, especially that I had in my mouth.
That intimate, yeah.
Yeah,
It's very strange.
It
I
is
don't.
very strange, but
Well, I don't see like why they want it, but they do. It's there.
you never know.
Buy it. $5.
$5 on the eBays.
Yeah, maybe. Craigslist. Who knows?
On Craigslist.
I don't know.
That's
I have
even
to
weirder.
look it up.
That's another whole.
It's funny if you Google. Well, my mother Googles me. I don't Google myself, but Mom will Google, and then you scroll down, and that's one of the images that pops up is my braces. My
So there you
braces
go.
retainer.
Google Lane
And-
McNeil. You can buy her braces from
Go
Falling
for it.
Skies.
A lot of weird props, man.
That is
That
a
was a
lot.
fun show.
Yeah.
Noah Wiley's so nice.
Yes.
He's so.
I would love to meet him.
He's like cause you'd expect him to be, because he's from ER, he worked with George Clooney, he's like this big actor, he's like the sweetest, most quietest gentleman
He's got
ever.
that smolder blue eyes.
Yeah, he does. Even on set, I was like, because he'd do his coverage, so I'd be off camera and it has his eye point,
Yeah.
and then he's like acting, and he's like saying stuff like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Totally not a character, 'cause he's really handsome. Yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I have one. If you could choose, because we're at a Comic-Con,
Okay.
a superhero
Oh,
to play
Jesus.
on screen.
You know what? Oh God. Sean did such a good job though,
Yeah.
as Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel?
That
would be
movie was
amazing.
fantastic.
Do you know who I could picture you as?
Who?
Do you, I don't know if you know who this is. Jubilee from X-Men.
Wait, what's the superpower again?
Her. she's like got a raincoat and she throws fireballs. And
Oh,
like that.
oh, okay.
If you see the Jubilee and the X-Men that they did, you can see the similarities.
Yeah.
And I think you could pull it off, and it's a team role.
Hey man,
Yeah.
I can still
You're
do
still
that.
playing
I
team.
can still do it.
Is it- I imagine your
It's like-
character resume says team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're older, so they don't pay for schooling and stuff, you often play a lot younger. So if I'm 23, I play, I think the youngest is like 17 is pushing it, but
Yeah.
like 18,
Yeah.
I can pull off. I can't do 25.
No.
It's because unless there's like, it's really funny because I'll go out for teams and they're like, wow, that's great. But then I'll be in the audition room with the other people auditioning and they're all actual teens and I just look so old. Like I can look good, I can look young by myself.
Sure.
No. Okay, yeah, okay. You go to auditions with me, you might.
Okay. Well, then I'll look old.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god. You're like,
Yeah.
Who brought their dad? You got a dad out here? Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, but it's
Yeah.
So it's definitely it's a weird business. No.
Any other questions?
Any new projects?
Do you have anything coming up that you can talk about?
Yes. One that is coming out. It's super up in the air, but Spontaneous, which is based off of a really cool graphic novel wof people spontaneously explode. So there's lots of blood. It's a comedy, but it's also like kind of one of those like teenhood stories where it's like growing up and coming of age story.
And then you explode.
And lots of people explode. Yeah. Oh my God. There's so much. We literally had so much red blood everywhere.
We need more blood over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over
you
and
probably
over.
heard that a lot.
Yes. They even rigged cool contraptions because it would be like, so instead of like people exploding, so say the camera's on Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you hear a little quiet pop, and then like they'd shoot an extinguisher of blood all over Mike. And then Mike would look over here, and there'd be like shoes and clothes, and just blood everywhere. So someone would explode. So they tried to do less CGI and more just kind of funny like camera angles and like cool,
Okay.
special effects on set. So there's lots of.
So this movie is in the can, as they say.
Well, it's in the can. It's finished. So they did as much as they could,
Yeah.
like on set, and then they were like, oh man, so we got to do some CGI on top of that. So they're just trying to work that through.
I can't wait to see it.
It's really
And you
good.
said it's based on a graphic novel.
It is based
it
off a
called
graphic novel.
Spontaneous?
Yeah, just called
Do you know
Spontaneous.
who writes it?
Yeah,
I have to.
Yeah, you gotta Google it.
I gotta Google it.
I forgot
Yeah.
it.
That's okay.
Yeah.
What does CGI?
So so they did as many, like the blood splattering and stuff, like as much as they could, but they have to put in special effects on top of that. So they have to do post-production and make it a little gorier, or they have to adjust the colors as much because it looks a little, I saw some of the clips and sometimes it could look a little, it looks a little fake.
Yeah.
You know, and they were so incredible.
CGI, it stands for computer graphic interfacing, I think.
I'm gonna take your word on that.
I think that's what it stands for. It's basically, so Lainey and I were talking here, they could actually put a rabbit
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
there, and that's CGI.
Mhm.
And you remember Ghostbusters in 1984? And the dogs running up to that's what it used to look like.
Yeah.
Now it looks, so you don't even know.
Now it's like
Like,
that.
The Hulk.
Yeah,
Thanos.
motion
those
capture.
are CGI. Like those are people acting in just the white dots. all
It's
over
very
them.
hard to do.
Yeah, I
I've
can
tried
imagine.
it. It's very hard because you
You have
feel like
tried it.
because it's like a big open floor.
Yeah.
And you have this silly costume on that's very revealing.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's skin tight,
Like
right?
a-
And it's black, and then they have the dots on, and you have to like. Actually, you should see Benedict Cumberbatch does an incredible mocap for. He plays a dragon in one of the Hobbit movies. Yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
You could just watch him doing that. He's like on his all fours. He's a big dude, and he's like. And he's making all the facial expressions. He looks so stupid. He looks so, because he's just on this floor and everyone's just watching him on cameras, and he looks like some loony bin person.
I think
It's
one
so
of the best
funny.
CGI actors, if I guess that's
Andy
his name.
Serkis.
Andy Serkis, yeah, he's the Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
He's one of the
He is
first ones, yeah.
Snoke, Severus Snoke from Star Wars.
And Caesar from
Caesar.
Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
My friend was Caesar's son in one of the last ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Devin Dalton.
Evan Dalton.
She's
Look at
a super awesome mocap voiceover. She's a teeny weeny little thing, so she does all the kid stuff.
all the good stuff.
Yeah,
And
she's great.
But she's your age.
No, she's older than me.
She's older than you.
Yeah.
She's 24.
I don't know. I'm not gonna say, she won't like that.
She won't like that?
No, I don't know.
Oh.
So, she's 20s.
So how was your first Q&A?
Not bad.
It was fun?
You know,
Yeah.
it was chill.
It's- They're
I'm
always
very
chill.
uncomfortable.
You're very uncomfortable?
I always like, I always find it weird coming here because it's a lot of focus.
Yeah.
And-
You don't like talking about yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
I even like when I was in high school and I was doing Wimpy Kid films, I didn't tell anybody I was in the films.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was bragging.
Yeah.
100%. I'm super Canadian about it. I'm just like, oh, you know. it's
You know, there's
fine.
actually, I can't remember who it was, but there was an actor talking about an interview. I wish I could remember who it was, talking about they didn't like talking about how they were, because they actually got picked on.
That happened. I'm very lucky it didn't happen
Yeah.
to me. I know it can because I had friends like that, but I just had friends. My friends were very. When it started coming out every year, I'd be in high school, so around grade 10, I'd show up first day, and then you can tell grade 8 kids would come, but they didn't know who I was, and so then they start looking at me funny, and then I could be like, oh man, I figured it out. A couple months in, and then I had one kid who was so sweet. I wish I remembered his name. I have a lot of rowdy friends, and we're hanging out at lunch and being rowdy as usual. And then this one little kid has a movie diary book, and he has a pen. And so he comes through my big group of friends. He's a little grade 8, and he goes, "Hey, are you late? Can you sign it?" And I was like, yes, I can. My friends just all stop and they're staring because they've never really seen anything.
Yeah.
They've never seen me do my thing.
Yeah.
So I do it, and then he walks away, and he's just like, yes, walks away. My friends just burst out laughing. They're like, what the hell is that? And I'm just like I'm an actor, right? And then yeah. So
That's gotta be awesome though, little kids coming up to you.
it's so, I love being in kids films.
Yeah.
I love it because they are the best.
Yeah.
I love the way they, especially here. I had one kid come up and he goes, so, trying to his big kid voice.
Yeah.
He's like 6. And he goes, are you in that movie? Kid? I go, yes, I am. And he goes, I just have some feedback. I just wanted to say. He just says, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed that film. And I went, oh, thank you so much.
That is so
It's
cute.
just- and he's just a super serious face. He's not quite making eye contact.
Aw.
But he's just like, I'm just like,
That's gotta be the best part.
it's the best part.
That's the best part.
Yeah,
Is
fun.
I think that would be for me as if I was a star or an athlete or something. I think dealing with kids would be my favorite part of it.
'Cause they're the
because I love
sweetest.
dealing with kids. Like I'm so jealous of that cosplayer. I don't know if you guys seen her.
Belle.
She's Belle today. She was in
Oh my
also.
God.
I'm so jealous because all the kids are running to her and they love her. She's so gorgeous.
I know. I was running to her.
She's a
I was
Disney
like
person
touching
right
her.
off the screen.
Like, yes.
Like it's amazing.
It's so good. No.
So, yeah.
The cosplay this is fantastic.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks, man. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I
This
hope you
is-
come back again and see us.
Yeah.
And so we got back from Kelowna Comic Con yesterday, actually. So I didn't film this until today. So, but anyways, guys, basically this was the last Comic Con of the year. So, it happens in the Okanagan. So, stay tuned next year for other Comic Cons that I'll be covering. But, yeah, guys, basically we have covered every Comic Con that happens except for Vernon. That will be one new one that we'll do next year. But, yeah, it's been a long ride with you guys. So we are going to take a hiatus until the next Comic Con. So it's been a lot of fun though, covering all these Comic Cons for you guys. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and thanks for watching. And I'll see you guys next year.